there is one Saturday in November we all stop to play. Grown-ups are allowed to be kids on this day. It is, after all, Idaho's Super Bowl game, the Broncos and the Vandals. Each year we gather around the field to watch these kids make us feel young again. Whether you're a Bronco, a Vandal, or just a fan of football, this is your day. The day dreams come true. Simply spectacular day in the city of trees, Boise, Idaho. It is the Broncos and the Vandals. It is a series that started in 1971, and every Saturday there is one day in the fall that is reserved for this day, and this is the Saturday. The Broncos and the Vandals meet up. We call it Idaho's Super Bowl. And how do everyone, and welcome to Bronco Stadium. Dave Tester along with Bart Hull for this matchup that just runs chills up your back. I don't think there's any better way to put it as you see all the fans here that are ready to play some football.
Well, although this series is not, as others are, hundreds or so years old, this is as heated as you'll get anywhere in the country. You can put any two teams in this slot, and they're not going to get as heated a rivalry as Idaho and Boise State.
A couple of weeks ago, you might have looked at this game and said the Vandals are going to come into town and roll. But a week ago, now 2 weeks, a guy by the name of Pokey Allen came back to the team and added a little magic, and the Broncos are now believing that maybe that magic will carry them to a win against the Vandals.
Well, any small amount of magic will work for anybody, but Pokey Allen brings a huge amount of magic. He's a guy who comes in after being hurt all the year. The whole team is hurting. Now there's a sparkle in these young men's eyes.
And on the other side of the football field, the Idaho Vandals with a record of 5-5. They would like to finish with a winning record. If not, it would be the first time since 1981 they would not. Not much you have to say about this one except for the Broncos and the Vandals. Today is the day. We'll have more when we return to the blue turf in Boise, Idaho right after this. The director doesn't have a comm line. Super Bowl is just about to kick off, but as we do each and every week, Bart, you give us the breakdown of this game, the tools to success, sponsored by KC Supply. Bart, you started out with the quarterbacks, Fiend and Hildy.
Well, Fiend's been beat up the last few weeks, and of course, everyone saw Tony Hildy take that tremendous shot that broke his ribs last week. Both quarterbacks are sore. They need to remain healthy throughout this game if either of their teams have a chance. Boise State's secondary let New Mexico State and pretty much every other team this year's receivers run wild and do anything they want. If they have a chance, they have to take some chances and jam them on the line and disrupt the passing range. And this is the big factor for Boise State. A healthy number 57, Chris Wing, the leading sacker in the nation in all of Division I. If he isn't healthy, Boise State's in for a long day.
We're going to see a couple of Chris Wing, of course, for the Broncos, and then a guy by the name of Ryan Phillips for Idaho. I think you fans at home are going to have a special treat.
Well, Ryan Phillips is a very special player. He's a guy who you don't hear a ton about because he's so consistent and he's so great all the time. People just expect it of him all the time.
Bart, I think if we could, we'd put on a helmet and pads and go out and play. It's just the atmosphere here for the big one, the Broncos and the Vandals. It's the last game of the season. It's one everyone has been waiting for. Can't wait to go.
I'm ready as you are.
We'll be back with the kickoff right after this. Game of the season, the finale of the Big West, the Broncos and the Vandals, and we are ready for kickoff. The Broncos winning the toss, thus Troy Scott will kick it off, and we are ready for Idaho Super Bowl. And very quickly, this one goes on the ground, and the Broncos get it up to the 32. Well, Bart, that isn't the way we expected this game to start out, but we are ready to play a football game.
Well, Idaho knows how dangerous the return men for Boise State are. Ryan Akibi, they elect to kick it on the ground to Jesse Chan, who's become quite a ball carrier in the last few weeks.
Tony Hildy with 2,300 yards on the season, 20 touchdowns. He is the all-time leading touchdown tosser in the history of Bronco football, playing in his last collegiate game. Oh, what a fabulous career the senior from Pendleton, Oregon has had, and he would love to cap it off with a victory today. Hildy out of the shotgun on first down. That is Tony Mamero going to the top of your screen on first down and 10. Hildy wants to go deep. He's got Andre Horace. And this one ends up going in the arms of Chris Wing, who is a defensive end. Let's take a look now at the offensive line for the Broncos. They are very young, but they will be blocking for this group. Tony Mamero, the sophomore. Reggie Etheridge in the backfield, the junior. Ryan Akibi, Mr. Everything. He caught the winning touchdown a week ago. And these guys up front, as I told you, they are young, but soon they are going to be fabulous. And some of those freshmen now, Bart, I think we can say they are sophomores come this time of year.
Very safe to say.
So Tony Hildy's first pass goes astray, and the Broncos are faced with a 2nd and 10. Hildy has to go high for it. He will just keep the ball and run it across to the 40-yard line, across to the 41, and it looks like the Broncos have the first down of the football game. On the other side of the football field, Ryan Phillips, the All-American, probably the best defensive end in the Northwest. 5 sacks on the season, injured early on in the season. That may be the best D-line around. The linebackers very solid. They're in on every play, and the defensive backs are led by Arnold Gunn from his strong safety position. So the Broncos get a first down, and they move the football up to the 42. We are just underway. It's Boise State and Idaho, as Andre Horace goes in motion for Tony Hildy. They keep it on the ground, and the Broncos may get a couple of yards. Bart, is this what you've expected to see so far? Broncos out of the shotgun showing some different looks?
Well, they had success with this shotgun look last week and a couple of weeks beforehand. And the quarterback keeper by Tony Hildy is something that we haven't seen all year. Here's a guy who is the key to this offense, and they try to keep him healthy, but it's the last game of his college career. Why not run him all the time you can?
Reggie Etheridge would love to have a big game. His junior season, we can safely say through the first half of most ball games he's been very effective, but quiet in the second half. He'd like to put 4 good quarters together. Hildy on an option will keep it himself, tries to turn the corner, and I think Hildy lost a yard before he was finally tripped up by Matt Jasek.
Another 2 that were in on that play, Whitney Mayer and Jason Shelf, knifed in and dropped Tony for a loss.
Hildy, by the way, is the 2nd leading rusher on the football team, and when you add that into his passing yards, one of the tops in all-purpose yardage in the country. And to think he played as a true freshman, then he said he would have been redshirted just a junior now. Hildy hoping to play possibly at the next level. As the Broncos send 3 receivers to the top of your screen, they have everyone in the pattern this time. For Hildy, who faces a 3rd and 9 under pressure, somehow gets it away to Andre Harris. He catches it out of bounds. So that'll bring up a 4th down, and the Broncos will be forced to punt the football. How do you analyze that first series, Bart?
Well, it was a success, I'd say, on the side of the ball for Tony Hildy and the Boise State offense, and then they got 1 first down. But I think Idaho got a feel for what's going to happen with Boise State offense the rest of the game, and they're going to adjust accordingly. Idaho wanted to stop them, and they did.
So Jeff Davis will boot the football. You see the numbers on the season. The number you do not see is 14 punts inside the 20. Twice he has been Big West Conference Player of the Week on the special teams. A flag on the play as Davis gets it off, and David Griffin, the deep man, will just watch it roll across to the 27. But hold everything. There's a flag on the play, and we'll find out who it's on.
Well, it looked like one of the Idaho defensive linemen on the punt team, the punt return team, jumped. It's only going to be a 5-yarder. Not enough for a first down.
The Broncos needed 10 yards to get a first, so that if they took the penalty, it'd be 4th and 5. Is there any kind of a decision here? I mean, it's 2 and 9 time Pokey Allen's magic. You say, okay, we'll line up again and maybe have Brian Harsin, who on fakes this season, he is the up back, is 1 of 2.
Well, I don't know about this early in the game. We saw that Tony Hildy was very upset. He wanted to go on 4th and 10. Here's a guy who does not want to get off the field at any time.
It is wonderful to see that man on the sidelines, just his 2nd game back. Pokey Allen, 2 weeks ago, returned, and he said, I'm ready to coach. I'm here to stay. And here is the call. Offside on the defense. 5 yards. Our referee today, Jeff Hansen, the Big West Conference guys, wrapping up their season as well. Of course, the finale will be the Las Vegas Bowl, which the University of Nevada is advancing on by winning
the conference title. The Vandals defeated Nevada earlier this season in Moscow while the Broncos lost. That game was in Reno. Davis will indeed boot it. Gets a high cutoff, and Griffin will down it at the 26. So I guess you can say nothing lost, nothing gained. The Vandals have the football. It'll be our first opportunity to see the guys from Moscow operate on the offensive end of the ball.
Idaho takes over first and 10 on the 26.
All right, the man we will be watching closely is the signal caller, Ryan Feen, who a year ago was getting ready for UCLA and USC, but he told me a couple of days ago on the phone the transfer from Bruinland. He said, Dave, this game is bigger than the Bruins and the Trojans. How about that? So Feen, the senior transfer, playing in his last game collegiately, keeps it on the ground. Joel Thomas pushing and shoving his way up to the 32, and linebacker Jimmy Clark comes up and makes the stop. Let's see what the offense looks like for the Idaho Vandals. Joel Thomas, the wonderful running back. Bart Hall refers to him as a bowling ball because of his build and the way he bowls over people. Scott Wilson and Gilroy will get a number of catches. Griffin, the leading receiver, and there's that offensive line. We call them the Killer Z's. Richard Zink Zemer and his twin brother Steven Zink anchor the front for the Idaho Vandals. So we'll bring up a second down and 4. That is David Griffin in motion. As we told you, he was Feen's favorite target. Again, Thomas keeps the ball, and the Vandals get a first down. This is key for Idaho to get 4 or 5 yards a pop. The guys that will be trying to stop him on the other side of the ball, Shane McKenna, the sophomore from just down the road. Last night, his alma mater Centennial winning the A1 title. Maybe he can carry that momentum into the game today. Chris Wing will be watching carefully to see what he is doing with that bad knee. Jeremy Hayner in the middle, the leading tackler. And that secondary, probably the big question mark for the Broncos in this football game. Green on first and 10. The Vandals with the football. 11:38 to go. The first opportunity we've seen the senior to throw the ball, and he's going to run it. So Feen picks up about 7 yards, and that's something we didn't expect to see today. Although Tony Hildy runs like crazy, Ryan Feen's not a runner.
Well, we did the Idaho-Utah State game, and that's the first time I've ever seen Ryan Feen scramble and actually tuck the ball away and run. He's usually scrambling, looking for an open receiver or a way to throw the ball away.
We will keep you posted, and we plan to isolate on number 57 for the Broncos, Chris Wing, the defensive end who is out there. Bart, have you been watching the senior leader and watching that knee? How well is he playing?
Well, they've been running away from him and rolling away on that last pass play. He looks like he's running a little gingerly on the knee.
Ryan Feen didn't like what he saw, so he takes a timeout. We are just underway. The Broncos and the Vandals. Everyone in the state takes the day off to watch this one. First started in 1971, the Broncos definitely had the edge, but you can see the Vandals, the last 14 years, they have had the upper hand, but the last time these two clubs met on the blue, it went the way of the Broncos in that magical year in which Boise State played for the Division I AA title. Thomas on second down and 3. And I don't think he got enough for a first down. Bart, talk a little bit about what the Broncos are doing defensively.
Well, Boise State this week, I think they're throwing in a little bit of a different look. They've got this scheme going with 7 men in the box. That's in between the tackles is what you call the box. And they're putting 7 men up on the line of scrimmage, and they have about 6 or 7 different looks they can run off of that. 5 of them are blitzes, but they're all different. So I think Ryan Feen's just, that's why he called the timeout, because of the 7-man look. He wasn't sure what was going to come at it.
How about this? 3rd and 2 at Idaho Super Bowl. The crowd already into it. Thomas pulls away across midfield, and that will be enough for the first down. And already some pushing and shoving as Cliff Robinson gets up close and personal with Dan Zemer, who a year ago was a defensive tackle. He says, Cliff, I don't know how to mix it up. And Cliff says, look out.
Well, there's 2 guys who are trying to set the tone. These 2 teams just don't like each other. That's all there is to it.
Joel Thomas, who last year actually had a stress fracture early on, a game against Idaho State. Nobody thought he would come back, and late in the season he came back and set the league afire, and he's back for his junior season as the Broncos setback. Feen on 1st and 10 to throw it up, is yet to complete a pass, but he has a man wide open, And that was David Griffin, and the ball was overthrown on Griffin, and back in the coverage was Jeff Davis.
Well, that's the second official we've seen go down in 2 plays, but Jeff Davis played that ball perfectly. He played a little possum playing center field, and when the ball was in the air, he came and at the last second came in and broke up the pass play.
So the Vandals are faced with a 2nd and 10. Griffin is the second leading receiver for the Broncos as far as catches, but the go-to guy is Antonio Wilson, and you can see Griffin was open, but the ball was not on target.
It was fairly close, but I think Jeff Davis, the strong safety, was able to get in there and just at the last second break his concentration.
The Vandals need to get the football up to the 39 for a first down. Keene, the fire, has got a man, and there is Wilson. And I think Keene was a little bit flustered. He expected to work over the secondary of Boise State.
Well, the weak part of this Boise State coverage has been the flat areas, and you saw that last pattern was just a quick slant that would have been thrown right into the slant area. And Jimmy Clark, the outside linebacker, you see Ross Ferris disrupting the timing pattern.
And there's a guy that might be a little bit upset last night watching Parma defeat his Glens Ferry team. Of course, at the same time, Ross is saying, well, I graduated, Dave. Here we go on 3rd and 10. The Vandals and the Broncos no score with 9 minutes and 46 seconds to go in the first quarter. Keene with time fires it away, adds a man, and it's incomplete. And I'll tell you the key on that play was Jimmy Clark, the middle linebacker, putting Keene on his back.
Well, that's that 7-man front they're running. There's 7 men up on the line of scrimmage and just your 4 back defenders. And they're bringing different guys every time. And even sometimes I think you're going to see the defensive ends, Chris Wing and Cliff Robinson, drop back into coverage.
So both defensive units answer the charge, and thus the Vandals will be forced to boot it away. Troy Scott, or rather Mike O'Neill, will boot it from his 37. Tony Mamero waiting at the 12-yard line. O'Neill with the boot. And Mamero will let that one bounce. And it will go out of bounds at the 11-yard line. And that's where the Broncos will have it 1st and 10. Bart, we looked back to a year ago, and the punter was Brian Brennan, who was also the quarterback for the Idaho Vandals. And by the way, if you're wondering about Brian, who's probably the number 3 quarterback on the depth chart, Coach Tormey said if need be, Brian could play today. Tony Hildy playing in his last game on the blue, and it seems like just yesterday in his very first against the University of Montana, Pokey Allen said, I'm putting the freshman in, and the rest has been history. Hildy back to pass, looking, fires it up, and that's a wide football. And got it away, and I think Tim Brecky might have made a play there like a defensive back.
Well, that was like an infield fly right there. Any number of men had a shot at it, but Tony had good protection. There was good coverage by the Idaho secondary. That was not bad protection by the Boise State offensive line, but after 4.5, 5 seconds, any quarterback is going to get pressure.
There is a guy we want to keep a close look at. It is the senior Jordan LePayne, who 2 years ago was on the front page of the Statesman when Pokey Allen's team won this game against the Idaho Vandals, breaking that streak. Jordy is going up against the very best, Ryan Phillips. Ryan says we know each other very well. They faced off 4 times as the official blows a whistle, trying to reset something. But imagine the battles number 96 has had with 74.
Well, an offensive lineman, you don't hear much about him, Jordan LePayne.
So the delay of game on the Broncos hurts, because now all of a sudden, instead of 2nd down and 10, you're 2nd and 15. That's not the bad part, but your running backs are in that orange. Is Chris Tormey, who played in this game. One of the very few head coaches who actually played in the game, and now is the head man. Hildy out of the shotgun. Fires the ball and nearly intercepted. I'm not sure who the intended receiver was, but it looked like Jason Schelt, and Jason Schelt is the middle linebacker for the Idaho Vandals.
I'm not sure where Tony was throwing that ball either. They're the only people in the area of the ball. Watch this rollout. Pretty good protection here by the Boise State offensive line. There's 74, Jordan LePayne. Watch Tony throw that ball. The only thing there are 3 Idaho defenders.
And we have a holding call as well on the Broncos that will put it back half the distance of the goal line. Hildy's numbers, he's thrown it 4 times, incomplete 4 times. Barry Mitchell is discussing with the official along with Jason Schelt exactly what the situation is. Do they take the incomplete pass or do they push him back further?
I think either way you're okay.
On the offense, occurred in the end zone. The result was a safety.
That was the safety. Was back to pass, and now the Vandals, almost like getting a $5 bill under your pillow you didn't know was there. They pick up 2 points. What a strange turn of events.
Only in this game where you see a call that strange. That's weird. I've never seen that happen in a game.
2-0. Idaho with the lead back right after this. Ball game, because Tony Hildy was in the end zone when the holding infraction occurred, it is a 2-point safety. And Jeff Davis will punt it. The Broncos have that option, having some trouble getting a hold of the football. Bart, you didn't see a holding in that.
Well, at the beginning of the play, I think they called it on Keith Dilworth, the fine freshman from Fora High School. What I think happened was he hooked his man, and anytime that you have your arm all the way across the man's body, the ref, even if you're not holding, is going to call that penalty. I think the battle of field position is being won by Idaho very clearly here, and many people discount that, but the more you play in your own end, the less chance you have of scoring.
Well, and I don't think Jeff Davis got a very good punt off there. So the Vandals, after the safety and the free kick by the Broncos operating on the 46, Joe Thomas on a draw, and the junior Austin Ryan picks up 11 yards. Joe Thomas had his feet cut out under him by Walter Reed. Finally was stopped as he moves it into Bronco territory.
The games we've seen for Idaho, Joel Thomas has not had spectacular outings. But many times this year, Boise State has let running backs run wild on them the whole game, and Joel Thomas is a gifted back.
Thomas in this game averaging about 6 yards a carry, 5 carries for 29 yards, and Idaho said, we're going to try to run the football. I didn't believe it, but they are trying to do just that.
Just a little draw play here. A team that passes as well as Idaho, you have to respect it, and your linebackers have to get into a drop, and that creates big holes on draws.
And you can see how close the Vandals are to a first down. 8 minutes and 57 seconds to go here in the first quarter. The Broncos and the Vandals. And there is Chris Wing, and we certainly know he's not 100%, but he is in there. I don't think you could have kept him off the field, Bart.
Well, his leg would have to be dangling off or completely off for him not even to play in this game. He didn't practice once all week. He did some jog-throughs and some walkthroughs with the team, but this is the first time he's gone full speed all week.
Chris Wing with 18 sacks, 73 tackles. He would like to get that number 20. That was his goal at the beginning of the season. The man we call the sergeant, because he is just that. That is his rank in the armed forces, and then locked on here at Boise State. The give is to Thomas, and Thomas gets enough for the first down. And the Vandals will have 4 new ones to operate from. Ryan Feen, a guy that has never been to Boise before, he said, I've seen the blue turf. I've heard about the blue turf. They don't ever ask about the city. They only ask about the blue turf. But he said, I'm looking forward to this game.
Well, this blue turf is world famous everywhere you go in North America, Dave, and I know it happens to me too. You say you're from Boise, Idaho, and Boise State, well, that's the place where they got the blue carpet.
It is like the floating green in Coeur d'Alene. They ask about that. They ask about the blue turf in Boise. Ryan Feen on 1st and 10. Back to Thomas. And he's got a man. That's Antonio Wilson. Goes up and Jeff Davis with his second interception in the right place at the right time has the Blue Raiders standing up in Bronco Stadium.
Well, Jeff Davis has certainly picked the right game to play the best I have ever seen him play. So far in this first quarter, Jeff has done such a super job. Credit Walter Reed on this as well. At the last second, gets a hand on the ball, and there's Jeff Davis, a very talented athlete, a guy who's had a little bit of trouble this year, but he sure was playing well in this first half.
Davis, who is Boise State's answer to Deion Sanders, he punts the football, and he is the defensive back for Pokey Allen, who said, I have a good feeling about this game, and Antonio Wilson was wide open for that pass. Hildy struggling with the ball, and he fumbled the football, but did they mark him dead before or after? It looked like it was going to be another safety, Bart.
It sure did. Idaho knows the advantages of having a team backed up against their goal line. They've got so many things in their mind. And a smart coach sends pressure on a team that's been having trouble the whole year, especially when they backed up against their own end zone.
Ted Butler was the starting center, the transfer from Nebraska, who has a national championship ring. Injured against Nevada, has not been back since. And freshman Joey Horvath has been the guy under the microscope.
Well, the book on Joey is to put a nose guard on him and bring a lot of pressure.
Well, the Broncos are just lucky to get out of the orange. Talk about playing on blue turf. The Broncos are saying we want to get on that blue turf.
Well, the orange is not a place you want to be with the back to the end zone. Just a straight off-tackle play. Jesse Chan leading the way. A lot of penetration there. Look at Ryan Phillips, the All-American. He's in the backfield before Reggie Etheridge has the ball.
Ryan Phillips, who has a hobby of skydiving. I said, is this serious? He says, Dave, I have 37 jumps after this game. It's going to be 38. Yes, he is serious about that. Hildy under pressure, fires it away, complete. Ryan Akibi catches it at the 8. Tony Hildy nearly stepped out of the end zone when he threw that football. I don't know how close his foot was, but watch here on the replay if he stepped out of the end zone.
Well, this is going to be the best vantage point to see just how close he was. Oh, he's just about a foot. That's incredible. Ryan Phillips has been all over the field for Idaho this whole first quarter.
So Davis, who made the interception, is thinking, hey, guys, the idea of me intercepting the ball was to get a breather. Instead, he's booting it from his own end zone. Davis on the season averaging about 40 yards a punt. Griffin catches it on the fly, and the Vandals have had wonderful field position, and they will again as the official spots it at the 33.
Jeff Davis is trying to kill the ball. When you try and kill the ball, it's just like when you're on the golf tee and you try and rip a driver. What happens? You shank it, you slice it, you duff it. You need to be relaxed and smooth it through. That's when Jeff Davis booms those 55-yarders.
Bart, is that what you're always telling me when I get on the golf course?
Well, you don't even hit a driver off the tee, so I don't have to worry about it.
Hey, don't mean-mouth my golf game. Speaking of a golf game, Ryan Feen says if he couldn't play football, golf would be his sport of choice. A 15 handicap has not had very much luck throwing it as he tosses it off to Thomas for a pickup of about 3 yards. So Joel Thomas has been the workhorse, and if you would have told me number one was going to be carrying the ball as much as he is in this game, I would have believed you.
Well, Boise State has made some mediocre backs look like all-stars, and this is an all-star back that's going to have a lot of workload today. I think that's great. A coach, anytime he says I can run the ball, I don't have to chance it in the air, hey, I'll do it anytime.
Up at 3, makes it 2nd and 7. Here's Thomas again, at the deep. Joel Thomas from 28 yards scampers his way into the end zone, and the Vandals have jumped out to an 8-0 lead.
Well, credit the right side of this offensive line. The kick-out block done perfectly by the tight end, Andy Gilroy. A missed tackle, McKeish Brooks. Here's the bowling ball. You're not going to bring him down with 3 yards to the end zone.
Thomas with the touchdown, the extra point on the way. And the Vandals, it used to be called the Air Express. Now it looks like the Ground Round. They lead it 9-0 after the run by Joel Thomas. Back with a kickoff right after this. Up 9-0 a year ago. Joel Thomas scored a touchdown as the Vandals won in Moscow. Today he adds another one to his Vandal Bronco resume. 29 yards, and Thomas nearing 100 already, and we've got 5 minutes, 54 seconds to go in the first quarter. The Broncos just need to get something going offensively, as Ryan Akibi takes it at the 5 yards deep, we should say, and is going to get on one knee. How often do we see Ryan Akibi down the football?
Well, with a leg like that, when you get it halfway into the end zone like that, I think that was a smart deal by Ryan Akibi. The senior does a smart job Get good field position. You're right on the 20. Take care of business.
I guess, like we said, usually that's the sensible thing, but Ryan throughout the season has taken it and run it out of the end zone 21 yards, averaging one of the best at that in the Big West. So Tony Hildy trying to figure out a way to move the football on the Idaho Vandals, trailing 9-0. Single setback is Etheridge. And Etheridge carries the football for about 6 yards and fumbles it. And Arnold Gardner, Dyson Gardner picks it up, but they roll the ball dead.
Oh, that's a fumble. You saw the beanbag fly out of the referee's pocket, and that means he's spotting the ball right where it lands. Draw play looks like there's a little room for Reggie Etheridge. At the end, we talked about his tremendous balance. He just tries to do too much, and the ball flies out.
So Bryson Gardner picking up the gem, and the Vandals trying to operate in fine territory, in which they've done. Wonderful field position, and it's at the 30. And Bart, you've seen the Vandals a number of times, especially when they send 5 receivers in the pattern. They are going to throw it into the end zone. Keene under pressure, sacked by Chris Wing. So Wing is now 1 sack away from number 20, and bad knee and all. We're expecting the Vandals to dump it into the end zone, and the senior comes up with the sack dance.
Well, Idaho's trying to set up the middle screen here by spreading out Idaho's defense, or Boise State's defense. And Chris Wing will have nothing to do with it. He and Shane McKenna wrap up Ryan Feen.
That ties a record for tackles for a loss held by John Rady, who was a pretty good football player here and didn't do too bad in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons.
Not bad, 10 years in the show. I'd have to say he's a pretty solid player.
Chris Wing hoping to follow in those footsteps. Feen on 2nd and long, hits Griffin. Griffin gets it back just past the original line of scrimmage. And the Broncos have a chance here, Bart, to dodge a bullet.
Well, I think they're
shoving in there.
I think they're playing a pretty cautious zone right now. The linebackers' drops were about 15 or 20 yards down the field. They were going to give up anything underneath, but that was a pretty serious pass there. That was about a 15-yard pass right into the open spot in the zone. Andy Gilroy is always going to find an open area.
Tom Mason, who is the interim head coach, looking into the eyes of Ryan Feen now as he slides over to his old familiar spot as defensive coordinator, trying to figure out a way to stop this Vandal unit that averages 475 yards a game. Feen fires. Andy Gilroy is wide open, and Gilroy meets up with Walter Reed head-on, but not before he gets the first down. And is it a fumble? No fumble.
No, the
Broncos wanted the fumble.
Down. Andy Gilroy is going to come from the left side of your screen, a crossing pattern, hiding from those dropping linebackers, and him and Walter Reed collide. Boom. And I tell you what, I'm not so sure. Oh, no. He was down, and that's the tie always goes to the offensive player. Andy Gilroy, a fine tight end, a little undersized, but a guy who finds the open area and runs hard.
The Bronco basketball team in action taking on the Cougars up in Pullman, Washington State, and Boise State. The Broncos lead it 41-35 at the half. Rod Jensen going on the road, hoping to knock off the Cougars, and wouldn't that be a wonderful win for Boise State?
Unbelievable. A Big West school going against a solid Pac-10 team up at half like that. Let's hope that Boise State can carry on the momentum into the second half.
So the football is spotted at the 17, 9-0. The Vandals with the lead in the first quarter. Tom Pace, and Pace pushes up for another first down. Well, you wonder, as Robert Scott and Walter Reed get into a pushing and shoving matchup, you wonder if the Broncos concentrated so much on the passing of Ryan Feen this week, they forgot about the running game.
Well, they've had a big problem with tackling the whole year, and on the right side there, Chris Wing and Cliff Robinson do the right thing. They force the back to take the pitch and turn it up back into the pursuit, but the tackling just wasn't there. There were 3 or 4 opportunities, including Jeremy Hayner had a chance to stop him for just a yard gain, and he just didn't.
Well, you know what Pokey Allen's thinking inside. Can't be happy right now as his team trails by 9, and the Vandals knock on the door. Thomas trying for a second touchdown of this game. Gets up to about the 3-yard line.
Well, unless Boise State starts tackling with their first attempt, first and second attempt and swarming to the ball, it's going to be a long day. Joel Thomas is going to have a lot of yards simply because once you break that first tackle, you are guaranteed a gain of at least 3 or 4 yards.
Thomas with 64 yards thus far, 9 carries and a touchdown. The junior playing in his last game in Bronco Stadium. Trying to erase the memories of 2 years ago. And Chris Wing had him wrapped up, and he goes in for the touchdown. Another score for the Vandals. Chris Wing's got to be kicking himself right now because he had Robert Scott tied up in the back, or rather Joel Thomas tied up in the backfield.
I think that's the only time this year that we've seen Chris Wing not finish a play like that. Joel Thomas gets the ball straight off tackle. Wingding's got a chance to take him down for a couple of yard loss there, but just couldn't get a handle on him. And that's the first time I've ever seen him not finish a play like that.
Thomas came into this game with 10 touchdowns on the season rushing. He now has 12. 2 today. The extra point is through. And the Broncos have to figure out, A, how to stop the rushing attack of the Vandals and then figure out a way to move it offensively, or it could be a long afternoon.
Well, I think it's pretty simple so far. They're not tackling.
Well, you see the numbers, and of course what created all of that was the fumble by Reggie Etheridge. Don't forget, we will be naming our Domino's Player of the Game coming up at the conclusion of this contest. Bart and I will be selecting the Domino's Player of the Game. Well, early on in this contest, it's been all Idaho, and what swung the entire momentum, I think, Bart, was not any of the touchdowns, but the safety, the holding on the Broncos when Tony Hildy was back in the end zone early on with 9:21 to go in the first quarter. And the Broncos were kind of stunned because they thought, hey, we're playing heads up with Idaho, and now we're down 2-0.
Well, the field position has just killed Boise State so far. They have not even got past their own 40-yard line, whereas Idaho, this whole first half has been in Bronco territory.
I don't think Ryan Akibi will be downing the football this time as Scott boots it. He will try to make something happen for his Broncos. Akibi takes it at the 1-yard line, trying to turn the corner. And Akibi gets good field position for the Broncos, and that's why you like to see him run it out of the end zone for that one reason.
Well, the special teams have been a sore spot for Boise State in the beginning of the year, but these last few weeks they have played so much better, and special teams are a forgotten part of the game. If you cover well and you make all your blocks on return game, you're going to get great field position and good things are going to happen.
The Idaho Vandals have not won a game on the road this season. Last week losing to North Texas, a game in which they had to win if they wanted to collect part of the Big West Conference championship. They lost that game, and now they're fighting to finish with a winning season. Etheridge with the ball. Last time he carried, he coughed it up. This time he gets about 3 yards. Why do you think it is, Bart, that the Vandals have struggled outside of the Kibbe Dome?
Well, it's a controlled environment, and we were in one last night, 70 degrees, no wind, friendly confines, and you're used to it. It's a weird deal going into a dome if you're not used to it. Playing football indoors is not natural. And then when you're used to playing indoors and you go outside, it seems unnatural for you.
Pokey Allen, who played his college football at Utah. I said, how do you compare this to Utah State, or the BYU game? He said, it's rougher than that one. Hildy making it rough. Gets away from one defender, and Hildy's got an open space as he gets it deep into Vandal territory. Just when you think the Broncos are slowed down, enter Tony Hildy, a pickup of 20 yards, and the senior has Boise State on the move.
Well, an incredible play by an incredible athlete. A lot of the times this year, Boise State has had to depend on Tony Hildy for all of their offense on the ground and in the air. There's a bootleg. Tony's forced to pull up. And how many times have you seen 3 or 4 defenders have a shot at him, and he makes them all miss?
So Hildy gets it up to the 41-yard line, where it'll be second, or make that first down and 10. He is the second leading rusher on this team. Off to Etheridge, and Etheridge manages to pick up about 3 yards, maybe 4 yards. I thought it was down at the apex of that hit, and he kept on rolling.
Well, he's got tremendous balance. You saw him, he ran backwards for any of the positive yardage he had there.
This combination, we compared Malone and Stockton. As you see, number 80, Ryan Akibi, and 18, Tony Hildy. They will dearly be missed next season. The Broncos send 3 receivers to the bottom of your screen. The single setback is Etheridge. On second and about 6. Broncos need to get it to a 31 for a first, and it was the quick hit to Jim Brecky, who last week caught all 3 of those. Tony Hildy is livid. He's telling the official, I was hit late.
Well, I didn't see that part of the play, but I did see that both the inside linebackers for Idaho, number 34, Whitney Mayer and Jason Schelt, were showing blitz from the time Boise State came up. You see him right there, coming right up the middle. Jim Brecky, the tight end, is the hot receiver there. Hot being that he sees a blitz and he just goes and goes to the vacated area where the linebacker was. A little hot to handle there for the big boy.
Whitney Mayer from American Falls. We drove by his hometown last night. Tony Hildy trying to improve on that passing percentage. Just 1 completion. Hildy under pressure, trying to get away. Does somehow, pulls the Houdini act and fires it deep. Intercepted. Jason Schelt was the only receiver there. Tony Hildy did indeed get away, but why did he throw that football?
Your guess is as good as mine, and anybody who saw this on the sideline as a fracas breaks out. Tony pulls the Houdini here, escaping from the impossible grips. Watch him escape, and he escapes another shot right here and throws it, I don't know where.
I don't know what he saw, because it's not like there was a receiver out there. Sometimes you say there may. All I can figure is he saw the back of Reggie Etheridge, thinking he was going to break out that way. So the Broncos on the move, turn it over again. They have had trouble hanging on to the football. Chris Tormey on the other side, thinking maybe. Tony Hildy thinking, what happened? Antonio Wilson from Fiend catches it and gets a first down as he picks up 12 yards on that. Well, Tony Hildy's interception numbers have been way up this season. Part of that, so much pressure on him. That was his 17th interception this season. Of course, if you compare his ratio, he has 20 touchdowns. You want that touchdown number obviously higher than the interception, but not so close.
You definitely want a large margin in the touchdown area. I think that goes without saying, but on that last play, Boise State had trouble getting the flats, and that was a delay route into the flat area.
Thomas with another big hole, and he pushes it into Bronco territory. By comparison, Ryan Fiend, 24 touchdowns on the season, 11 interceptions. With that run, Thomas nearing 100 yards.
11 yards.
So he gets up around 80 yards.
First and 10 Idaho at the Boise State 42-yard line.
Well, if you're going to give a back with this much ability, 11 yards a crack, the day just keeps getting longer and longer.
Chris Wing has just come out of the lineup. We have played 1 quarter. It has been all Idaho. The Vandals leading at 16-0 the second quarter, when we return to the blue of Bronco Stadium right after this. Don't send him out there. And Chris Wing has returned back to his defensive end spot. And Fiend is going deep for Robert Scott, and there will be a flag on the play. As Walter Reed looked like he had his hand in the hip pocket of Robert Scott.
I was just about to say the exact thing. If he had a pair of jeans on, he'd have ripped the back pocket right off him. You cannot put hand check guys, just like in the basketball. You can't hand check. And Walter Reed was pushing him away from the ball.
Holding against Boise State.
Ryan Fiend with just 3 completions thus far, but the running tack has been all there with the exception of this play. Walter Reed may be showing some inexperience there.
Well, I think he showed inexperience the whole year. He has never played college football up until this year.
Against an eligible receiver, 10-yard penalty from the previous spot, first down.
On the replay there, you saw Walt. You couldn't really see, but you saw Robert Scott having to alter his steps, and that was because Walter Reed's hand was on his hip pushing him.
Fairly penalty-free game. I think the biggest stat would be the number of turnovers. The Broncos have not figured out a way to hang on to that football. An interception and a fumble. And the pass is complete. Robert Scott catches the ball right as Ryan Fiend fired that. Jimmy Clark unloaded on Ryan Fiend. And doing some scouting this week, the coaches checking out the Pac-10 said, we found that if Fiend gets rattled, he struggles. And that's why he got popped right after he let that one go.
Well, Robert Scott runs a little dig, just goes in straight across the middle, finds the open area. He's a tough guy, a former quarterback who will go across the middle and catch the ball. Jimmy Clark comes off the edge and throws a little boom, a little hello.
A greeting card, and not from Hallmark, from Clark. 14 minutes, 14 seconds to go in the half. The Vandals facing a 2nd and 1, and Thomas again gets the first down and more. As Jeremy Hayner comes up to make the stop, the leading tackler stops Robert Scott, but not before he gets the first down.
Chris Wing was in the backfield and had a shot at that tackle. I think that's where you're going to see Chris Wing's knee injury take an effect. Usually he's going to drive through a defender and power him down to the ground. We've seen him really dish out some punishment the whole year. But here he's having to jump in the air and grab and hope to bring the guy down, and that's not Chris Wing football.
The Vandals knocking on the door again at the 19. Andy Gilroy is in the backfield. The give is to Pace. Pace is the backup to Joel Thomas, and he gets a couple of yards. Jerome Thomas was that backup, but Tom Pace, who's had a marvelous freshman year, has moved into that slot.
Well, we saw Pace play against Utah State earlier in the year. We did a game, and he returns kicks, and he is a super athlete. He's a little light in the britches. He's not a heavy guy, but he has tremendous speed and runs very hard.
Pace weighing in at 186 pounds, about 5'10". By the way, Ryan Fiend goes 6'3", 207 pounds, so you can see how much bigger he is than the backup running back. Fiend fires, has Robert Scott alone. Scott makes the grab at the 1-yard line. So Robert Scott, who is also the backup quarterback for the Vandals, puts it at the 1-yard line, helping his number 1 quarterback.
I don't think there was anything any defender can do about this. Ryan Fiend drops back, sees the one-on-one coverage and throws it to a spot, and Robert Scott knows where that spot is and runs right under it. I don't think there was too much any defensive back could have done in coverage there.
Would you say that this is Joel Thomas time, already with 2 touchdowns?
I'd say that's a safe bet.
Thomas in the backfield along with Tom Pace. Lines up almost like a fullback and then goes in motion. So it is not Joel Thomas time, but it is Pace. And there's a flag on the play. And it looks like it's going to be against the Idaho Vandals, so the Broncos getting a bit of a break there on the false start.
Still first down.
Bart, how big would a defensive hold be for Pokey Allen?
Well, if they could put a stand on here on the 6-yard line, I don't think you could say anything, but it would be absolutely huge.
A little jump. That looked like Jeff Pancraft, the Centennial grab. Jeff, we wanted to say your name when you caught a ball, not when you jumped off a little early. Because Jeff had to be thrilled to watch his Patriots win last night in the A1 title game. Fiend rolling out, looking to Thomas, just throws it away.
Well, great coverage. Great coverage by Ross Ferris there. They really had only one option on that play, and that was Joel Thomas in the flat. They were hoping to fool the DBs, but no fooling Ross Ferris, who's really matured throughout this year.
And what would you say about the heads-up play by Fiend, not trying to force anything? I mean, nobody was going to catch that. He threw it to those Bronco fans that were watching.
Yeah, he was just playing it safe, and I don't think he had any intention of running the ball. We've seen him run once in the first quarter, and I don't think that's his game in any way, shape, or form. I think he was just saying, okay, let's not do anything stupid, throw this ball away. We've got 3 more shots at the end zone.
Feen, who has 2 touchdowns rushing this season, said his favorite player was John Elway. Pace with the ball finds his spot and can't get through it. So Jimmy Clark coming up with the stop, and it'll bring up 3rd down for Idaho.
Well, Wing and Robinson did the right thing again. They run the toss, and there's Cliff Robinson 40, and Chris Wing's in there as well. They spread the play out as well as Marcel Yates is in there, and they make the back cut it back into the pursuit. The pursuit has to be there in a much, much quicker way and make the play.
The crowd will try to help out the home team. In the old days, the Vandals would have tossed this one up in the corner and let a receiver run under it. But it looks like the Vandals are more of a running team today. The give on the misdirection to Andy Gilroy, who came around from his tight end position and picked up the ball. A little bit of trickery goes in, but there is a flag for too much celebration. But the touchdown will still count.
Boy, there's a play we've seen a number of times this year. The slot back reverse. Gilroy's lined up as a slot back. Nevada runs that to perfection as well. We saw New Mexico State run it, and a few of the high school teams are running it because it's an effective play, a great misdirection play.
The officials are discussing the celebration, which happened right after the touchdown. Unsportsmanlike conduct. So the Idaho Vandals will be penalized, I would guess, on the kickoff. And it will be a 15-yarder.
Tip ball foul on the scoring team. The penalty enforced from the kickoff. Touchdown.
Of course, what is most important on the Idaho sidelines is that the touchdown is good. 22-0 with 12 minutes to go in the first half. The Vandals coming into this game as a 10.5-point favorite. But Bart, there was an opportunity there for Boise State to make some sort of a stop.
Well, they did a good job after the penalty. The ball was on the 5.5-yard line. They do a great job on first down, making Feen throw it away. And then 3 players do a good job on the pitch, turning it back into pursuit, but the pursuit did not make the tackle and let the ball get down to 1-yard line. And when you've got 2 shots from there, with the backs they have, what more could you ask for? You're going to get it. You're going to get it in the end zone.
Brian Feen telling the official what hash mark he wants the ball placed on, because the Vandals will go for 2 here. And he wants all his running room over on the left side. And that's where he will send the receiver. So the Vandals are going for 2, up 22-0. Feen fires it to Thomas, and Thomas just walked through it. So Thomas with 2 touchdowns and now a 2-point conversion, and there's a flag on the play. And it looks like a holding call as the 2 wide receivers just kind of built a fence there.
I think Robert Scott's going to get called for the hold on the 1-yard line. And that's the call. The ref took the flag out of the end zone and placed it on the 1-yard line because that's where the infraction occurred.
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the flag. Repeat the try.
You know, I really saw that play coming from the beginning. When they line up Joel Thomas out there, they're either going to run the middle screen to him or run some sort of delay in the flat, because Boise State's weakness has been the flat, coming over the middle, and just the first tackle on any ball carrier.
So when you move it back 10 yards, the wise thing for Idaho is to kick the extra point, and that is the case as Troy Scott comes in. And this will be a little longer extra point than he's used to. Still will be about a chip shot at 27 yards. Tony Uranga, the holder. As you see the numbers on that one, very effective. 9 plays, 65 yards, and Andy Gilroy not in the air. All of the offense has been on the ground.
Well, Andy Gilroy at 6'3", 220 is an undersized tight end. But I tell you, he'd be a pretty good-sized fullback. And when he runs with the ball, he runs hard and he runs well. Any other team, I think you'd see him as a fullback.
After a PAT has been established, the spot of the ball and there's an offensive foul, the ball has to be enforced from where the spot of the foul leaves it, on the ends bounds mark.
And what is critical there, as the official explains, what hash mark is just the angle the kicker is facing. Instead of going from one side, he is now faced booting it from the left side.
Well, Jeff Hansen, the referee, I think didn't get his point across very well, but the penalty occurred on the left side, so you've got to put the ball on the left hash. That was a simple way to put it.
And that's how it affects the kicker, just by moving it over to that other side on the hash mark. The extra point is no good. It is still 22-0 after the Andy Gilroy touchdown. The Vandals in control in the first half.
It is the house.
With Bart Hull back in Boise, where the Broncos were hoping to make this last game of the season and the last of the Big West this year one to remember. But right now it's been forgettable, trailing 22-0. Of course, in the midst of all the touchdown of the extra point and going for two, remember the Vandals were penalized for celebrating, thus they booted clear back at the 20. So Boise State should get pretty good field position out of this play. Let's see if Jesse Chan can give him some, let's see, Jesse gets it up to the 40, so that's not too bad.
That isn't bad at all. That was an interesting way to kick it off when you have the poor field position. Sometimes the best way to get velocity on the ball is just to kick it low and hard. And if you kick it up in the air, you can let a team set up its return.
Our Chile scoreboard looks like this. USC and UCLA, the game we told you Ryan Feen was working on last year. The Trojans with the lead. Michigan over Ohio State. How about that? 13-9. And the Bronco basketball team trailing Washington State now 59-51. We'll update that score. Wazoo leading 61-53. The toss is complete to Etheridge, but there is a flag. Tony Hildy, we thought just his second completion, but it's going to come back.
Well, that's in the area where a hold usually takes place. That was a nice little toss and catch by Tony Hildy to Reggie Etheridge, and the call is a hold against Boise State.
Bart, what do the Broncos need to do besides eliminate those penalties? How can they get something going offensively?
Well, I think they were doing it well right there. Boise State has not thrown to their backs very much this year out of the backfield, and that's a good way to get things going.
Holding on the offense, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. Repeat first down.
Of course, that offensive line is very young. Keith Dilworth, a freshman. Ryan Groneman, a freshman. Joey Horvat, a freshman. Jermaine Bellin, a sophomore. Jordan LePayne is the lone senior, but a young group of guys up front. So the Broncos are faced with a 1st and 25 as Hildy looks over this defense that has been stifling. Either way you look at it, it has been tough to get through Idaho. Hildy again under pressure. Fires it away, complete to Mamro. And Tony Mamro gets away from one defender and gets it near to the original line of scrimmage at the 38.
I tell you, I'm a big fan of Tony Mamro's. Last week we saw him open on a few plays right down the middle and he wasn't hit. He's got a lot of speed. This kid's got a lot of fire and determination. Only a sophomore, he's going to be a good one. Of note, Josh Alvarez, number 75, has moved. The 6'4", 280 junior college transfer has moved in to play center for the Broncos.
Mamro on the season, 16 catches, 150 yards. There's Alvarez at that center slot. I would imagine Ted Butler's thinking he's in street clothes. Do I have to dress down? The give is to Etheridge. Of course, Alvarez early in the season, you talked about how he was in that front line unit, and then some juggling around because they just ran out of guys, and then Josh found himself as a backup center.
Well, I'm sure he's very happy to get in here. He started a few games at one of the guard positions, and with all the injuries they've had at the center spot, Joey Horvat sometimes he gets a little flustered when they put a nose guard on him and they bring heat right past him. And so Josh has played a few years of football, and he's a bigger guy.
How tough is it to go from a blocking lineman to a guy that's also got to snap the ball and from the shotgun? That's the toughest part.
It's one of the most unappreciated positions in all of football.
Especially when you're the backup center. And Josh is not used to that position, but he gets it back to Hildy. Tony steps up, dumps it to Ryan Akibi. He just tried to push the ball to Ryan Akibi.
Well, it's a case of trying to do too much by yourself, and then when people tell you to get rid of the ball, just something bad happens. You know, I think maybe Tony should have held on to that. He saw something with Ryan Akebe breaking over the middle, but just things aren't bouncing the way of Boise State.
Tony Hildy is 2 of 8 for 20 yards. As Davis boots it, this time he gets a good kick to Griffin, who will fair catch it at the 25. So that's where the Vandals will bring their offensive unit, and the Broncos still trying to figure out a way to move the football on Idaho. They better hurry up. They trail it 22-0 with 10:45 to go in the first. 22-0. Jeff Caves, who also played in this game like Bart Hall. Jeff, feels like old home week down there for you.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of former Broncos on the sides. The emotions right now kind of down for Boise State. Tom Mason is really looking at this as a clinic, and he's Xing and O'ing out the Bronco defense. Not too much emotion. They're not going at it that way. Watch the adjustments defensively.
How about offensively? Are you hearing anything as far as the Broncos trying to figure out a way to move the football?
Well, making the change at center, I think, is an opportunity to give Tony some more time. The receivers have been open. They have not gotten the time, and that's what Dave Stromswald has said to the offensive line, and now he's trying to do something about it.
All right, Jeff Caves will be on the sidelines throughout this football game, keeping us posted on what's going on down on the turf. As the Broncos pick up the Vandals rather, picking up 3 yards. Keene fires it to Pace, who can't. Yes, he does get by. I didn't think he'd get by the one defender, but he gets more than enough for the first down as he pushes it across to the 43. So it looks like you have the Vandals finally corralled, and then he gets more than enough for the first.
Well, at the end of this play, Jimmy Clark comes in and delivers a shot very close to being late. But Tom Pace puts on a nice little move here. He's one-on-one against Cliff Robinson. And there's it, very close to being late. He's trying to send a message to Ryan Fino, but Tom Pace puts a nice move on Cliff Robinson and picks up the first down.
So the football is pushed to the 42 with 9 minutes and 47 seconds to go in the half. And Thomas carries. Last week, the Vandals struggled with their ground game, but today they are not having any problems. Thomas now with 90 yards, nearing in on that 100-yard mark.
Well, unfortunately for Boise State, that's nothing new for an opposing team's running back to have 100 yards in the first half.
Of course, you think about a couple of years ago when the Vandals came in with Sheridan May, who was stymied that season. Of course, you had some guys like Joe Bryan and Brian Smith that made a big difference. Pace carrying the ball, and he is piled up as John Reideman gets in there. And this is the first time we call Big John's number. And he's had last couple of games, he's played very well.
Well, he has played very well, but I'll tell you, that's the first time I've seen Boise State's defense gang tackle and fly to the ball and really come at it, the ball carrier as a team. If they can continue to do that, then they have a hope. But if they continue to have one-on-one tackles, I think it's going to just be a long, long day and a great day for Joel Thomas.
8.5 minutes to go. The Broncos trying to hold the Vandals on 3rd and 6. Bean to Thomas, who gets the first out and more, being pursued by Chris Wing, and Thomas gets it all the way down to the 22-yard line. And Joel Thomas is putting on a clinic right now. Whether he's carrying it or catching it, he is tough to stop.
Well, this is a play where they brought the strong safety, Jeff Davis, and the linebacker, and they dropped the defensive end, Chris Wing. Chris Wing took too much time disguising it and went upfield, and the back just came out and was wide open. Chris Wing, an amazing athlete, runs a 4.5, but when you take 3 steps towards the quarterback, you cannot backpedal and cover a fast running back in the flats.
And then you put a knee brace on and have a knee that's about maybe 70-80%. That plays a factor as well. The Vandals again knocking on the door as Pace carries. And Tom maybe gets to the line of scrimmage before Jeremy Hayner and John Reidman get up to make the stop.
Well, Hayner and Reidman and about 3 other Broncos, and that's what Boise State needs to do if they're going to stop this attack at all. Running attack, Joel Thomas going up the middle has been very effective. In the last few plays, Boise State's done a good job of just stopping them.
Well, Ryan Feen has not had to throw the football in this game as much as he's used to, but still very effective. 7 of 10, 101 yards. The ground game, though, has been the key. Feen faced with a 2nd and 10. Idaho leading at 22-0. Feen completes to Antonio Wilson, who gets up to the 2-yard line. Well, Feen fired that one into Wilson, and Wilson left the defenders on their back.
Well, that's atrocious tackling by Boise State. Their one-on-one tackling has been awful all year.
And there's a flag on the play, so this one will come back.
The one good thing that's happening for Boise State is they're bringing a number of players. I think they're bringing at least 5 different players towards the quarterback on every play, and they're changing it up, and it's confusing Idaho's offense somewhat, and they're having to make adjustments, and when you make adjustments at the last second, sometimes you have to hold.
The officials discussing what has happened, where the personal foul occurred, how it affects that particular completion. 64-61, you may hear in the background. Late in the game, Washington State now up on Boise State. And here is how the officials will line this one out.
Personal foul on the offense. 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat second down.
I wonder what the personal foul was, Bart.
Well, I didn't get to see it, but what a fortunate break for if you're a Boise State fan. Idaho once again knocking on the door with a 22-0 lead.
Well, the coaching staff for Idaho has to just be livid because the football would be at the 2-yard line. Now the Broncos have to try to make this materialize into something. In other words, get the football back. It'll bring up a second down and 30. The ball is at the 42. The Vandals would have to get it all the way down to the 12-yard line for a first. Feen out of the shotgun with 3 receivers. Fires it up in the middle, and Robert Scott went up, and he nearly pulled that one away from Marcel Yates, who's hitting the turf thinking he should have had it.
Well, Marcel Yates does a good job in coverage. Marcel was picked on a little bit last week by New Mexico State, but he does a super job lining up on the corner. On the taller Robert Scott, they needed to get a taller corner in there, and Marcel Yates at 6'1" fits the build on a guy who's bigger. So you got 2 big guys going for the ball. There's more of a chance for when the size is even for a draw, is where when you get a 5'8" corner going against a 6'3" wide receiver, the receiver definitely has the advantage.
A couple of guys who will meet up in this game a couple of more times. Yates, just a freshman. Scott, a sophomore. Feen under pressure, goes down, and Wing, with help from Reidman, gets the sack. So depending on how they score that, whether they give him a half sack or a full sack, but he's pretty close to 20 on this one. What makes Chris Wing so good?
Chris Wing has tremendous speed and burst off the ball. Watch that rip. Did you see that rip with his left arm? When you get halfway past a defender and you can rip through like that, you've got your man beat. And Chris Wing has such tremendous burst off the ball. They think that's why the NFL's looking at him as a linebacker, and the Canadian League thinks he can start right now at an end position.
Mamarol to field this one at the 9, and that is where he will keep it. In fact, back to the 8-yard line. But the Broncos that time managed to dodge a bullet. With the help of a personal foul, they have it back, trailing 22-0. Comparison there, the Broncos averaging about 331 yards of total offense, just 78, and they don't have a lot of time remaining in the first half. Tony Hildy's got to get things going. The senior to throw it to Ryan Akibi, and there is nowhere to go. And I have a feeling that the Vandals watched a lot of tape of that particular play all week long.
Well, Matt Jasek, the linebacker, recognized that one right off the bat. That's an old staple in the Boise State offense. And Ryan Akibi is down. What a huge blow if he is out for this game.
Akibi, the senior, looked like he was hit by everybody on the team.
This is the middle screen. It's run so many times for so many years. And 35, Matt Jasek, sees it right from the start and nothing doing.
Now keep in mind, Ryan Akibi has a bad ankle. He injured that early in the season. That appears to be what they're looking at, but he also is playing with bad ribs as well.
Well, Ryan's not the most flexible guy in the world either. And when his legs were straight, he was hit in the back late by that Idaho defender. Not a late hit, but late in the play. And when a guy's not flexible like that and your hamstrings aren't used to bending, sometimes that can go on you too.
Remember to get your morning started right with Good Morning Idaho with Lynn Hightower, Joe Saylor, and Steve Liebenthal. There's the gang in the morning. Join them. Weekdays in the morning at 6 o'clock. It's Good Morning Idaho, only on Channel 6.
Third quarter from Pocatello, Weber State 24, Idaho State 9.
The Idaho Vandals up on the Broncos 22-0. And to make matters worse, the guy that caught 3 touchdowns last week against New Mexico State has a bad, it looks like, leg injury.
Well, they're holding on to his knee, and right there he's hit, and I'm afraid it's his knee, and that is not a good sign. It was bent the way a knee is not supposed to go, and that's on the side where your anterior cruciate ligament is, and that's the one that's a season ender.
Harry Craner, the man with the, shall we say, the shiny blue jacket, following, has been in every one of these games. He's been a trainer in every single Bronco Vandal matchup.
Well, he's a graduate of the University of Idaho.
He said he was on the other sidelines for the very first game, and since then he's been over on the Bronco side. This is not a part of the game he likes. We will keep you posted on the status of Ryan Akibi, but that does not look good.
Well, look for Ryan Stern, number 85, whose dad played for Boise State, was a punter. Would love nothing more to get in this game. Reminds me of a Terry Hefner guy, a guy that wasn't real quick but would catch anything that was near him.
Pokey Allen, who's now involved in his 4th Bronco Vandal matchup. Always said he didn't appreciate the year that he felt John L. Smith ran up the score on him his first season here. Said they left Doug Nussmeier in too long. 6 minutes to go in the first half. Hildy, without his favorite target, is on the run and just lowers his head, and Tony maybe picks up 2 or 3, and it'll bring up 3rd and long. Well, a little extra pushing and shoving in there, and Tony Hildy's right in the middle of it. He's not a quarterback that will back down from anyone.
No, talking to a couple of pro scouts, they said the only drawback on him is that he has the mentality of a linebacker. But his teammates not appreciative of all the shots he takes after the whistle by the Idaho defenders. They're in there right away. They know that he is the only key or the only hope for success that Boise State has on offense. Everything goes around number 18.
So a 3rd down for the Broncos. They need to get the football up to the 19-yard line. That's Tony Mamero going in motion. You can see the numbers. They have not been effective on 3rd down conversion. Hildy's still rolling, and there's really no one to throw it to, as his one receiver was standing right in front of him trying to block. And that's the problem when you don't have your favorite target.
Well, there was really nothing doing there. Tony was running for his life. I know your and our eyes got real big when he was running through the orange of the end zone, but he made it out. And the battle of field position is definitely being won by the Idaho Vandals.
You can tell the crowd's a little bit stunned by what happened to Ryan Akibi as well, because you believe as long as you have Tony Hildy and Ryan Akibi, you've always got a chance. Davis boots this one, gets a high spiraling kick to Griffin, who takes it at the 40-yard line. Nowhere to run. He goes one way, and his hit still rolling, and finally Jeremy Hayner puts the finishing touches. So good special teams work by the Broncos.
Well, one way to change the tone of a game is to make it change on coverage teams. And if you come down and you make a big hit, drop a guy for a loss, and no big run back on a punt, you're sending a message to the rest of your team. Well, a couple of linebackers don't have a shot open field tackling like there. McKeish Brooks lays the hat on, but there's 49, the leading tackler on the Broncos, the senior from Boise High, Jeremy Hayner.
Jeremy playing in his last Bronco Vandal matchup. Of course, he grew up around this game. Said he made a trip up north when he was being recruited, but he said Idaho was not for me, referring to the University of Idaho. So the Vandals have the football on the move again on a reverse to Robert Scott, and Scott has a whole bunch of room, and finally Cliff Robinson shoves him out of bounds deep in Bronco territory. So just when Boise State gets a break with the special teams, a little razzle-dazzle, and Scott carries it all the way up to the 42-yard line.
Well, everyone pulled on this play. Joel Thomas has been such a factor that everyone is pursuing. He gets 2 linemen out ahead of him. Ball to Reed with a poor angle, and it takes Cliff Robinson all the way from the other side of the field to bring down Robert Scott.
He pushes it all the way to the 38. Robert Scott did not play football until his senior year in high school. He's just that kind of athlete. As Thomas with the yard and goes out of bounds.
If they run that play again, I know that you and I will not be surprised if he throws the ball. He's the backup quarterback on the team and a tremendous athlete, as you just said.
Feen, as you might expect, going to UCLA. Big Troy Aikman fan who graduated from UCLA. By the way, he's wearing Robert Scott's old number. Robert had number 12 last year, but they traded up. On 2nd and 7, Feen with a lot of time fires it to Pace. Pace is wide open and gets it across to the 18. How come, Bart, the receivers are so wide open?
Well, all they're doing is sitting in the open areas. Feen is getting tremendous protection by his offensive line. No one had a push. You look at him just stand back there, and he can wait. And he waits for someone just to sit in an open area. And Tom Pace just does just that. Waits for the zone to settle down, and then goes to where a defender is not. That's Idaho's always been the offensive philosophy. Go to where there isn't a defender, and we've got such good quarterbacks, we'll get you the ball.
So Pace picks up the first down. And again, the Vandals back at it. Feen fires it across to Griffin, who can't make the catch. And Griffin, who is the leading receiver on this team, somewhat of an off afternoon. David with just one catch thus far. Of course, when I asked Ryan Feen, who is your favorite target, thinking, say, Griffin, Robert Scott, says if one guy's having a bad day, I'll just go to the next one. And that's kind of how the Idaho passing attack works. Just get open and you'll get the ball.
There's so many targets in this type of offense. Just the run and gun that Idaho runs, that someone's going to be open almost every play.
3 receivers to the top of your screen. They give it to the single setback is Thomas, and Thomas stiff arms Matisse Brooks and gets a first down. Now Thomas is over 100 yards with that carry.
Well, someone messed up and they had contain on this play. Well, it looks like Chris Wing was shoved there by the left tackle. You could say he's got the bad knee, his left knee, and couldn't plant there, but I believe his responsibility was the contain, and Joel Thomas took advantage of the fact that he did not have it.
Of course, as we just told you, Thomas going over 100 yards, a couple of touchdowns as well. A day that he would like to remember. Feen fires, and it is complete to David Griffin, who's in for the touchdown. Jimmy Clark thought he had an interception, and when he looked, he saw 6 go on the board for the Idaho Vandals. And that is the first passing touchdown of the game for the University of Idaho.
Who'd have thought that? I've been saying for a while there that why doesn't Boise State take some chances and go for some balls? You can't fault Jimmy Clark here. He was trying to make something happen. Unfortunately, it turned out to be 6 points for the University of Idaho, and a great pass and throw there.
As Feen celebrates, and there is a flag, an unsportsmanlike conduct, another celebrating, and that will be penalized on the kickoff. And I see the Vandal coaching staff, looks like George Yarno's down grabbing Griffin, saying that cost us on the kickoff.
Dead ball foul, unsportsmanlike on the offense. The penalty being enforced on the kickoff. The score is good.
So the touchdown goes on the board. It makes it 28-0 with 3.5 minutes remaining in the first half. It has been all Idaho. It started with a safety and has just carried on from that point on. Scott with the point after, and it is good. It's 29-0. And the Broncos have to figure out a way, Bart, to stop this team. Can they?
right now, I don't think it's seems like an impossibility. It's pretty incredible.
All right, Jeff, what do you know about Ryan Akibi?
Right now, they're classifying Ryan's injury as a bruised knee. That's the good news. The bad news is they are immobilizing the knee, his left knee. He will be icing it down. There will be x-rays. Ryan Akibi's career as a Boise State Bronco is complete. He will not return to the game this afternoon for BSU.
So how does that change the complexion? Jeff, do you see other receivers moved into the package, or will they just stick with Mammarell and Horace?
Well, I think they're going to have to go to some 3 receivers and get Davison in the ball game. Maybe get Johnson more involved in the ball game. At this time, at the BSU sideline, they're not saying much, Dave. They're really quiet. I think they're more looking at scheme and saving some of that emotion for a halftime rush.
Is it a situation where Ryan Akibi would go in the locker room and say, look, I'm coming back, or do they take his helmet and hide it?
When the knee's immobilized, excuse me, Bart, when his knee's immobilized, they're going for x-rays, and he's not coming back, according to trainer Gary Craner.
Well, you see the final score, the Broncos leading that basketball game at the half against Washington State, and then the Cougars coming back and winning at Field Court in Pullman. Looks like Rod Jensen had himself a victory going.
Well, at halftime he's leading, but the Cougs come on strong.
So again, after the penalty, and that means Ross Ferris now returns kicks. The freshman from Glens Ferry is one of the quicker players on the Broncos, gets it across to the 42-yard line.
Boy, if he'd have cut that to the right instead of cutting it back to the middle, he'd still be running. A big mistake there. They could have made a huge play for Boise State.
Still, the Broncos with good field position at the 42, and that man there now has to figure out what to do without his favorite target. Just 3 of 9. Of course, he had a record low number of completions, 5 a few weeks back against Utah State. And that was with all his receivers. Well, right now, just the 2 receivers, Mammarell and Horace. And that's Tony Mammarell, the sophomore, who will be indoctrinated in a hurry. He fumbles the ball, but it goes out of bounds at the midfield line.
Well, Tony Mammarell is going to be a big part of this offense in the future. He's been the 3rd receiver this year, but now he's the go-to guy. Tony's a little guy, goes about 5'7", 170, but a lot of speed and a lot of heart.
Mammarell averaging about 9 yards a catch, 18 with that one on the season. And you compare that to Ryan Akibi, who's caught it 62 times. You can see the difference. Horace, this time in motion. Run to the top of your screen. And Etheridge carries the ball and gets the first down.
Well, great pursuit by Idaho there. It looked like he had something going with the guards pulling, but Idaho does such a good job of filling and scraping off of their linemen. The linebackers just come in and fill where their linemen were, and Reggie Etheridge nowhere to go.
Bart, I would think it is a must-score situation for the Broncos going in the locker room.
Boy, there's an understatement. They're down so much, 29-0. They need to do something and get something going on the board.
Complete to Jim Brecky, who becomes another key figure. Brecky had a big run last week against New Mexico State. The hometown kid comes up big with a catch as he gets 12 yards and another first down for Boise State. Kind of the forgotten receiver, Jim Brecky.
Well, Brecky with the pulled hamstring early in the season. He misses the first 4 games. And he comes back in. He's been slow to get back into this offense. I think the tight end's been a forgotten position here. But Jim Brecky is just a huge guy. He goes about 6'4". He goes about 235. He's a big-time tight end. Pokey Allen calls him the best tight end he's ever had on his team.
A teammate of Jake Plummer at Capitol High School. Jake now of Arizona State fame. And on a hot pattern. And again, Tony Hildy is thrown to the turf. Again, he goes to the official. He says, what's going on? And the official says, you know what? Your other guy's getting thrown to the turf too, Ryan Feen, the same scenario.
We're coming up the middle, 43, Jason Schelt. Maybe a little extra curricular activity. I think the refs are letting them play there, but you got to protect your quarterbacks. There's no question about it.
I thought you were going to say Tony with a little extra acting there.
Well, I don't think Tony even has that in his system. I don't know if he knows how to take a dive.
2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining before the intermission. Hildy fires it to Mamro, and Mamro was that close to breaking it away, and somebody reached up with a big paw, and it was Barry Mitchell. Wouldn't let him go.
Barry Mitchell, a guy who's all over the field.
Well, Barry Mitchell, a defensive end who is kind of the quiet hero. Some say he's as good as Ryan Phillips at that other end spot.
Well, he's a very physically gifted athlete, and look at him right there, reaches out with the big paw. Gets a hold of Tony Mamro, who goes about 170.
And Phillips, 255 pounds, and now Reggie Etheridge is down. So the Broncos are battling the injury bug as the junior tailback being attended to.
Well, what more could go wrong for Boise State right now, injury-wise, and, well, actually everything going on in the field-wise. Nothing has gone the way of the Broncos, and Reggie coming off, and there's a tough guy.
Looks like Reggie's going to be okay. Get all your news on the weekend with Channel 6 News. Join Jill, Dave, and Joe on the weekends, Channel 6. In fact, the crew will be busy at it this evening. See them at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock right here on Channel 6. In fact, Joe, along with Rebecca Lewis, we will see them together for our halftime show, which will be live from Bronco Stadium at the intermission. Hildy on 3rd and 11. Running a little option play, and Hildy pitches it off. So Tony Hildy running the option, and the Broncos going with John Tia. I'm not sure about the option play on 3rd and long.
Well, I think they were just trying to get it into field goal range for Todd Belcastro. Todd's on the sideline. They're discussing it right now with Pokey Allen. But John Tia, the senior, 5'10", 245 pounds, runs a 4.540. He's a guy who came in, and the people had a lot of big expectations for him, and he just hasn't been able to get in the game with injuries and so on. Look for John Tia to get the ball here.
Well, we've got a timeout on the field as the Broncos want to discuss this one. A very critical 4th down, and it's the old case of, well, you might as well use one of those 3 timeouts because you can't take them in the locker room with you.
You know, I really thought they were going to kick the field goal there with Todd Belcastro, but I guess you're down 29-0. You need the big score right away before the half, maybe get a little momentum going your way.
Don't forget, at the conclusion of this game, we'll be selecting our Domino's player of the game. Last week it was Tony Hildy. We figured Tony coming back with that vicious hit just before halftime, throwing the 3 touchdowns, and of course the game winner to Ryan Akibi was worthy of that honor. Worked out well because Ryan Akibi picked up an honor of his own, Big West player of the week. Join us at the conclusion of our game for the Domino's player of the game. Pokey Allen with the headset. I asked him about wearing a headset. Some head coaches don't wear a headset. He says, Dave, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would a head coach be on the field without a headset? You need to know what's going on with the offensive and defensive units. I think it's more so Pokey can have a little input in that. So the Broncos using one of those timeouts on this critical, and we say critical because they need it to get something going on 4th down and 4. They have to get the football to the 24 of Idaho. Hildy's not used to battling the noise in his own stadium. Fakes the option, fires, has a man open, Brian Johnson, and Johnson goes in for the touchdown. Brian Johnson on a little fake option goes in for the score, and what a big play, and the Broncos get some momentum. Compliments of the freshman from Pocatello.
I think everyone in the world was expecting the option with Tony Hildy keeping it. He fakes the option, sucked everyone up, drops back, hits Brian Johnson, who has been the most exciting freshman on this team the whole year from Highland High School in Pocatello. Just a great kid, and he's going to be a super player in the future for Boise State.
Brian Johnson with 15 catches on the season. That is his 3rd touchdown. We heard a lot from him early on in the season, and then all of a sudden it went quiet, but he made some noise here as the Broncos show you all different looks as they try for 2 points. Hildy looking for Brecky, fires it. Brecky goes up, still fighting for it, and can't get it. Jim Brecky in the end zone doing everything he can with Ryan McGinnis defending. But regardless, the Broncos still get a score. And how critical was that, Boyd?
Well, with just under a minute remaining in the first half, I think it gives Boise State something to think about, and the coaching staff something to talk about as they go into the locker room. The two-point conversion was that old throwback that they've been using all year with a lot of success. Oh, here's the touchdown. They fake the option. Everyone in the world sucks up to stop Tony Hildy, and Brian Johnson sneaks behind everyone. Brian Johnson not going to be denied. Dives over the top, takes the cone out. Touchdown, Boise State.
So Tony Hildy, you can tell he's frustrated because he was pleased with the touchdown, but he wanted that two-point conversion.
Well, the throwback has worked every time this year for Boise State. They've hit Ryan Akibi on a touchdown a number of times. And that time they tried to hit Jim Brecky dragging across as the tight end going to the back on the backside, the roll to the right, throwback to the left. But McGinnis was not fooled in any way.
Todd Belcastro to kick it off. The first time he has done such today. Pace takes it at the 10-yard line. And Tom Pace has a lot of running room on the blue. Pace has one man to beat. It's the kicker, Todd Belcastro. And finally, Ross Ferris comes back to catch him. Just when the Broncos get a little bit of momentum, Tom Pace runs it back all the way to the 18-yard line.
Boise State's coverage was just awful on this. None of the people stayed in their lanes. When you see the guys line up from number to number on a kickoff team, their job is to run down and stay in that area and keep their lanes covered. In that area, there was only one player on the whole field that kept in his lane, and he was triple teamed.
72 yards for Tom Pace on the run back, which puts the football at the 18. Well, if anything, I guess it shows you the speed of Ross Ferris. It was clear on the other side of the football field, and tracked down Pace, kept him from scoring a touchdown. So now the Vandals, with 46 seconds to go before the intermission, try to strike back, and that one's batted away. Looked like Shane McKenna was in there with the big glove to bat down Ryan Feen's pass.
Well, as a defensive lineman, you're taught if you're not going to get to the quarterback, try and time a jump, and that time Shane McKenna, who goes 6'4", got a paw on that one. That's one of the few passes I've seen batted down all year from Ryan Feen.
Feen, in the transferring process, said he almost ended up at Northern Arizona playing for the Lumberjacks. That's where his dad was a receiver. Feen fires it. Wilson is wide open. Wilson had that. I think he expected it to go one way, and he looked down. It was between his legs. He couldn't bring it in.
Well, that was a confusing play. Two receivers thought it was going to them.
Well, Feen knew he had Antonio wide open. So it'll bring up a 3rd down and 10, and a big chance here for the Bronco defense, which was put up against the wall by the special teams. Feen out of the shotgun. The football's at the 18, 37 seconds remaining in the half. Feen with a lot of time, fires it high, and Robert Scott goes up and brings it down. What an athletic play by Robert Scott to score the touchdown with 31 seconds to go. And again, the Vandals celebrating. No flag this time.
But Robert Scott, who goes about 6'2", 6'3", goes up against Damian Schilling, who's 5'8", and when you throw a ball high over the middle to a guy who's 6'3", battling a guy who's 5'8", guess who's going to come up with the ball usually?
Robert Scott will play on the Vandals basketball team this season, and you can see why with ability like that. It's 35-6 in just moments after the Broncos had scored their first touchdown. The point after is good, and it's 36-6, a 30-point deficit for Boise State. That kickoff just killed Boise State.
I think you said it all right there, Dave. The big play by the offense, Brian Johnson trying to get something going there. And then the kickoff team, it looked like they had no idea where they were going. There were 4 guys that were completely out of place on that play. Idaho had no choice but to run it back almost the whole way. They couldn't have screwed that one up, I think, if they wanted to.
Of course, the big part of that was a 72-yard return, but 3 plays, 18 yards, and Robert Scott bringing in a touchdown, and Robert last season scoring a touchdown against the Broncos in Moscow, a game in which the Vandals won and kept Boise State from going to the postseason. Well, with 31 seconds to go, now the Broncos will try to come back the same way. Not a lot of time left, but if you remember a week ago, they scored it in 40 seconds. It's just a matter of who's going to pick up the ball, and it's Tony Mamero hiding behind defenders. He's got a wall along the side. Mamero running out of bounds at the 38.
Now, there's some advantages to being 5'7", and in that one, you can hide behind your own blockers. Tony's guy, you see, his feet move about 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's a quick guy. He runs, you know, in the 4.5 range in the 40. And in the next 2 years to come, he's going to be a huge part of this offense.
Injured player for the University of Idaho off the special teams. Mamero running it back 15 yards. So if you're on the offensive side of the Bronco team, do you say just play it conservative with 21 seconds, or do you say we've got to throw the ball? I would think, with this being the last game of the season, that you toss it up, Bart.
Well, why not? I mean, you're down 30 points. Why not take it towards the end zone? Try and get a little something going for yourself as you go into the locker room at halftime.
Join the Channel 6 News team each weekday night at 5:30 and 10 o'clock for all your news, weather, and sports. Watch Claudio Weatherman, Don Nelson, Bob Anthony, and yours truly. That's the Channel 6 News team weekday nights at 5:30 and 10 o'clock. Of course, we had the whole crew out here for the pregame show.
That's Pierre Eric, the backup running back from Pompano Beach, Florida, who's down. He doesn't look too happy about things right now.
Joe Vandal even made the trip for this game.
He needs to shave.
So the Broncos have the football at the 38-yard line. Crowd ever since Ryan Akibi went out very quiet, but then all of a sudden Brian Johnson sparked them, and then Robert Scott quieted him down again with a touchdown. That's where we stand, 36-6, just heading into halftime. Hildy out of the shotgun with 5 receivers in the pattern. Pumps once, and he will run this. Hildy just tried to run through 3 defenders, and it was difficult with Jason Schelt playing the traffic cop. So the Broncos will use a timeout here to stop the clock with 9 seconds. The only bad thing about Tony Hildy running the ball is how much time he used. But again, if there's no one to throw it to, what do? What you know best, and that's to run the football. Don't forget at the half, Joe Hughes and Rebecca Lewis will have a special report for us from Bronco Stadium. Talk to some of the characters that are at this game, and there are a number of them, both in blue and orange, silver and gold. Now Pokey Allen with words of wisdom for Tony Hildy, the two in their last game together, as Tony gets ready to go on to what he hopes will be a professional career. And what Pokey has to look ahead to now is who will replace Tony Hildy.
Well, they've got a few recruits that they're looking at, and we saw a fine one last night up in Pocatello playing for Centennial High School.
And I believe there are some recruits in the stands as well here. Junior college players looking over. Is this a place they want to come in and step in? So with 12 seconds to go, they put a couple of seconds back on the clock. Hildy will step up and go down. Well, I didn't see any receivers open, and I didn't see anywhere for Tony to run.
Well, they had 6 defenders back covering 3 receivers, and nothing going there.
The half is complete, and you can paint it Vandals in the first half, 36-6. The University of Idaho heading into the locker room with the lead, and I imagine that Pokey Allen has some words of wisdom. What does he have to do? How does he have to set it up? That's the toughest part of coaching. When you go in down 30 points, what do you tell the guys? We'll ask Pokey that exact question.
Well, there's so many things that have happened in that first half with every part of the line. The D-line, the O-line, the receivers, the running backs. Everyone has something that they have to cover, and their position coaches will get with them. Then at the last point, Pokey will get his say.
Bronco football coach Pokey Allen just heading into the locker room. Coach, it has not gone the way you have scripted it, but now what do you do in the second half?
Well, at least we try and play. We didn't play the first half. We shouldn't even been here. So, you know, we got to play football. Shoot, they intimidated our offensive line. We didn't do anything on defense. Shoot, we haven't played on both sides of the ball.
So there's nothing you're really surprised by, just the fact your guys aren't doing what you want them to.
I'm surprised we didn't play, yeah.
All right. Pokey Allen, as you can see, that says it all. He's not a happy man, and I am sure he will convey that to the players. It's halftime. The Vandals up 36-6.
The birds are coming. It's the real-life fly-away home. Tens of thousands of geese and cranes descend on an oasis in the American South.
Vandals leading at 36-6. Dave Tester along with Bart Hull. Back with you, taking a look at how it all happened. Of course, the Vandals got that safety early on with 9:21 remaining in the first quarter, and then the first touchdown of the game. Compliments of number 1, Joel Thomas, rambling 28 yards to put his team up 9-0. Later on a third down and long, the Vandals run a little tight end special as Andy Gilroy comes around the end, takes the ball, and trots in for the score. Just before halftime, the Broncos trying to score and get back in this one. Tony Hildy on 4th down and 4 finds his man Brian Johnson, the freshman from Pocatello, makes the grab and goes into the end zone. And BSU at that time had Mr. Moe up 29-6. But after a 72-yard run back by Tom Pace, the Vandals would stick this one in the end zone. Ryan Feen to Robert Scott, and that's where we stand at halftime, 36-6. But they're all big, Bart, but this one was huge.
Well, that's the backbreaker for the first half for Boise State. Down just, 29-6. It's still a feasible game to come back a little bit. And that 72-yard return right there and the touchdown quickly broke any hopes for Boise State in the first half.
And you look at the numbers, the total yards, 283 to 144. I think the rushing numbers are what will surprise a lot of people. 140 yards for the Vandals on the ground. Joel Thomas over 100 yards. And we expected to see more passing, less running by the Vandals. It's exactly the opposite.
Well, I haven't seen Joel Thomas break out like this whole year. He's a very gifted back. He's 5'6", 207 pounds, so I think the name bowling ball fits him aptly, but he has been rolling all over Boise State.
We'll be back for the second half kickoff right after this timeout. On the Idaho Vandals sideline when they headed into the locker room, and he heard exactly how Idaho feels about Boise State.
Boy, they carried the emotion, Dave, right into the locker room. Senior Barry Mitchell leading the chant, "Who do we hate? Boise State. Idaho, Idaho, you know who." And it was a pretty nasty group that went into that locker room taunting the Broncos. And it wasn't much better after the halftime was over. I talked to Nick Holt, the defensive coordinator, said, "Any adjustments in the second half, Coach?" He said, "Yeah, I think 6 points is too many to give up to Boise State." So they haven't lost their edge. They're out to put as many points on the board against the BSU team as possible. Some injury updates, as I mentioned earlier. Ryan Akibi is finished for the day. You may have seen Reggie Etheridge go down earlier with a shoulder. No problem. He'll be back in. But for the Vandals, Pierre Eric went out limping on crutches. He'll be back. It's not a major ankle problem. Emotional leaders for Boise State guys, I think right now Jim Brecky is the only guy that I can tell is trying to pick up the pace, and maybe he's a young guy looking for the future. Boise State coach is simple. Field position, they have none. Offensive line breakdowns, keys to the game. Dave?
And here goes Tom Pace again, just like where he ended the first half with a long run back. This was nowhere near the 72-yard run that he had before, but the special teams struggling on the kickoff.
Well, this time they tend to fill their lanes a little better as Todd Balcastro hits a line drive down there. But they're not even. You see Ross Ferris with the attempt there, but the guys, they're not even at all, and they're just letting guys pick and choose which way they want to run. It's really disheartening to watch.
Bart, Jeff gave us some insight about what the two sides were talking about. You said the Bronco coaches are very quiet right now.
Well, they certainly didn't want to talk about too much in the...
As Bean keeps the ball and is tripped up. I think, in a sense, that was supposed to be a reverse, but Ryan Bean saw that Chris Wing had it snipped out, and he just tucked it and ad-libbed.
Well, that was a very heads-up play by Ryan Bean. Chris Wing was going to drop that reverse for about a 5 or 6 yard loss. Bean said, forget about it. I'm not handing it off. Watch Chris Wing here. He sees it's a reverse. Oh, it was Jimmy Clark. Sees it's a reverse, so Bean, I don't think they have any running plays designed for this guy. He doesn't look too nimble. But it was a smart job in picking up positive yardage for the University of Idaho.
So if he gets the first down and he fires it to Griffin, he just can't hang on to it. It was a classic case of running before he got the football.
Well, he was wide open in the flats. Jimmy Clark is limping noticeably. Even when he's walking, he's having trouble going in a straight line. And that's his responsibility, going out and covering the flats.
That linebacking crew all gone after this game. Jimmy Clark, the senior, Jeremy Hayner, an upperclassman, Cliff Robinson, the other senior. And the defensive coordinator, Tom Mason, said, I'm going out and I'm going to get 3 very good linebackers for next season. That sounds like a junior college transfer to me. Thomas again on the ground. And Thomas will pick up about 5, maybe 6 yards on the carry. Well, it looks like the game plan has not changed for Idaho.
Well, there's no need to change what you scored 36 points on in one half, 37 points in one half. It's
okay, we're back.
Same play you saw a number of times in the first half. Straight give up the middle. Joel Thomas, a good job by his offensive line, and when your safety, McKeish Brooks, is making tackles, that's not a good sign.
Third down for the Vandals. Thomas again with a first down and a lot of running room. Thomas is off to the races, and Jeff Davis saved the touchdown on that play. Thomas is really surprising me with his breakaway speed. We've always known inside he's been very difficult, but watch him just sprint away from the defenders.
Well, we're getting a good idea of his speed on this play. A good lead block. Andy Gilroy doing an excellent job of playing tight end and fullback. And Joel Thomas, when you got that much room, you can build up ahead of steam.
Davis just hopped on for the ride and saved the touchdown as Thomas not only gets the first down, but he moves the ball to the 14-yard line. Well, it'll be 1st and 10. Idaho again in scoring position. This time it's Tom Pace. Almost a touchdown yet. I yelled touchdown as soon as he got it because you could see the lane, how big it was. Well, I think if I was back there, I could have ran through that lane. Unbelievable how the Idaho Vandals are running the football like this.
So Boise State obviously concentrating on pass rush, and when you run a draw against the team that you respect the pass so much against, a draw play like that is going to be wide open, and it certainly was. What about has been a big player this game for University of Idaho?
Well, he had the long return on the kickoff, and then the touchdown, now the extra point. And the Vandals beginning to pile it on in the locker room. Some of the coaches said, our goal to score 30 more. Well, they just put 7 more in to go up 43-6. We'll be back right after this. Plays in 55 yards. And Pace with the touchdown to seal the deal, making it 43-6. On the ground again, Jeremy Hayner can't find the pigskin, and finally he gobbles it up. That's some good running room. Jeremy Hayner looking like a running back from Boise High.
This is Jeremy's last game on the blue, last game against Idaho, and the last game of his college career. Wants to make something happen. He's made a few big plays on special teams. Has a little trouble getting ahead on the ball, but when he gets it, everyone thinks Jeremy's a slow guy, but really he has excellent foot speed. Right there, it looks like 49 should have been a ball carrier.
Jeremy at the wrong position for 4 years. So the Broncos have the football at the midfield mark, but they have an amazing hill to climb, and that fumble does not help. Guess who recovered? Jason Schultz. Well, it has been one of those days for the Broncos, and it's an evening that is going the way of the University of Idaho. Well, another center quarterback fumble on the exchange, and that's about, what, the second or third time just today, Bart, that we've seen that.
Well, we can't see exactly what happened, but I've never seen a fumbled snap go 5 yards forward. Oh, it was kicked. It looks like Tony Hildy never got it. It was a little low, and then Jermaine Bellin, they were shifting the whole offensive line. It looked like they were going to move left and kicked it about 5 yards downfield.
Well, that same scenario against North Texas, where Tom Mason said exactly what you did. The ball was fumbled forward from the center. He'd never seen that. Incomplete pass. Price cannot find the handle. Interesting, Bart, as we watch this play again and look on the sidelines, see a lot of Utah State coaches and members of the staff wearing Idaho coats.
You were quick to point that out early in the game. A few guys that are blue and white went black and gold for this game.
Came back out. Of course, their season ended early. I don't think we'll see John L. here, but you never know. But we saw some of his staff members and assistants watching this game closely on the sidelines. Thomas carrying the football, and Joel just has not slowed down a bit.
I think Joel's on his way to a career day.
148 yards for Thomas on 19 carries. 2 touchdowns, simply unstoppable right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that on the goal line they didn't give it to him a few more times, but I guess they're spreading the wealth out, University of Idaho.
Idaho leading 43-6 with 12.5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The give is to Thomas. Hayner is there, and Shane McKenna takes the finishing touches along with a couple other Broncos, but that is something that Boise State needed to start a long time ago, that gang tackling. We haven't seen much of that today.
Well, I think that's the third play that I've seen any type of gang tackling on. Other than that, it's been a one-on-one and missed tackles all the way for Boise State. And Joel Thomas has looked like Barry Sanders this whole game. It's pretty incredible that it's amazing how you see one team do something one play and then just not do it in any way the next time out. You know, you see gang tackling one play, and then the next play you see guys just missing one-on-one tackles. And it's a weird deal.
A fake to Thomas, and speaking of Joel Thomas, the Vandals leading the game 43-6, run a fake punt for a touchdown. And I'll tell you, there will be no love lost between these two after that. Bart, have you ever seen anything like that?
I think that's a pretty cheap call by a coaching staff against a team that's down, and they're really trying to rub it in. And I think it's going to come back on them in the next few years. I don't think anybody at Boise State's going to forget this one.
Well, Pokey Allen said 2 years ago he felt, or rather 4 years ago now, felt that John L. Smith ran it up on him, and now a fake punt by the Idaho Vandals for the touchdown, and the point after to make it 50-6. We'll be back right after this. Talking about Utah State assistants wearing Idaho coats on the sidelines, we said, where's John L? Jeff Caves knows where the head man at Utah State is.
Well, I think you guys deserve an exclusive tester, so we'll toss it out. John L. Smith is in Las Vegas, Nevada. No, he's not looking for the UNLV job, but I've learned today that John L. Smith is meeting with Al Bowl of Fresno State University about that head coaching position as we speak. Dave?
What were your thoughts as we think the Idaho Vandals, and they do have the football, what were your thoughts on the fake punt, Jeff, as a guy who's played in this game?
I think these are the kinds of things you don't forget, but when do you start remembering? That's my point.
Well, here is injury to insult. Ross Ferris fumbling the football, and the Idaho Vandals coming up with it again. Of course, we were in Fresno for Jim Sweeney's 200th career victory. Of course, he is retiring at the end of the season, and they talk about a fraternity of coaches. Jim Sweeney probably is I guess, the chief member of the Sweeney fraternity, obviously, featuring the likes of Dennis Erickson, Sonny Lubeck, a number of coaches like that, and John L. Smith would have to be part of that.
Well, University of Idaho has a strong tradition of head coaches moving around into Division I college football. You know, I'm all for a rivalry, and I'm all for beating your rival soundly, which the University of Idaho is doing, but I believe if you're going to beat a team soundly and you're up by 40 points, you don't run fake punts on them. I really think I said it before, and I'll say it again. If Boise State had done the same thing, I'd have called that a cheap call.
Here is what is intriguing about it. Chris Tormey, he said he remembers playing his last game. He said Boise State, he felt, ran the score up when he was playing. His pace tiptoes along the sidelines, and then Shane McKenna gives him an extra shove, and one of the officials goes down, throws a hanky from his back, and McKenna definitely did not need to do that, and everybody's okay, but it'll be a 15-yard penalty. But back to Chris Tormey, as his last game as a player, he said the Broncos ran the score up, and my coach, Ed Troxell, was fired afterwards.
Well, does that make it right for him to do this? Here's Shane McKenna. Shane McKenna doesn't need to do this either. Tom Pace is clearly out of bounds, and that's how guys get hurt when stuff goes out of bounds. And if you hit a guy while he's almost to the track and he hits that track hard enough.
Personal foul on the defense, half the distance to the goal, first down.
If you're going to knock somebody over, you don't want to knock the guy in stripes, right?
And the guy in stripes knocks over one of the ball boys. That's Squeaky. He's known as Squeaky, that ball boy, and he bit it pretty hard on the track.
First and goal, Vandals.
So the Idaho Vandals leading at 50-6 with 10 minutes, 36 seconds remaining in this third quarter. Keep it on the ground, and Pace trying to turn the corner, and Chris Wing with the stop. If you talk about the second unit players, I believe that Ryan Feen has been the quarterback in every game through every play. Robert Scott, of course, is the backup. Now we see some of the second unit receivers in the lineup. For the most part, I think a lot of those seniors are not going to want to come out of this ball game.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with them wanting to stay in the ball game. It's their last ever game, and this is the biggest game of your career, or your senior game, the Boise State-Idaho game. I just don't, you know, if they're going to score with Joel Thomas running the ball and Tom Pace running the ball, I think that's super. But if you're going to pick on these kids and throw touchdowns against them, that's another thing.
And just like that, another touchdown for the Idaho Vandals as Feen fires it into Dion Price. And Price is right for 6 points, and it's 56-6.
Troy Scott in to try the extra point, holding will be Tony Arenga.
The extra point, we can tell you, it was good.
Kick is good. 9:49 left in the third period.
So with 9:49 remaining in the third period, 57-6, the Idaho Vandals punch it in for one more. Now, Bart, as you were alluding to, where does it stop? Who ran it up when? Why and how? But, like, I guess the question is now, where does it stop?
And does it really matter that your grandmother didn't like my grandmother?
Well, they were good friends. My grandmother's watching, by the way. So I can say hi to her, to my grandmother. Yeah, and I have to say hi to my mom, too. In a game like this, right, Bart? My mom said, if you say hi to me, make sure the score's a little closer. But, of course, your point, obviously, back to depending on what happened way back when. But obviously, Pokey Allen is not happy. And at the same time, he's not happy with how his guys played either.
No, I mean, he said it all at halftime. He said, what do these kids have to do to come back in the second half? And he just said, well, they have to play football. They didn't do it in the first half. And, you know, they're playing a little better right now, but well, I don't think anything's going to make this deficit go down.
Well, back-to-back fumbles have certainly killed Boise State. As this time Ferris gathers it up at the 5-yard line. Ross, the speedster from Glens Ferry, hopping over the defenders and getting the football up to the 22. And what you worry about now, not only is the score, but we see a lot of pushing and shoving after each play.
It's not as bad as it was at the end of the first half with guys doing the extracurricular stuff after the play. I've always found that in this rivalry, I got to play 3 times against the University of Idaho, and I always found that when I played against the Vandals, they were always one of the friendliest teams to play against. And obviously, that's changed.
Well, and we think back a couple of weeks ago, we had Doug Nussmeier on the show, and you two, he said, "Hey, Bart, I remember playing against you," and you guys were talking about the old days. As the pass is complete to Brecky, and Brecky gets up to the 30, takes the hit, and it keeps on going. So the sophomore from Capital High School picked up about 8 yards on the reception. Where do you think it went wrong? I keep pointing back all the way back to that safety, and I know it seems like a minor point now, trailing 57-6, but it seemed like that was the tone setter because the Bronco defense was holding.
Well, they held the first series, and the Bronco offense got a first down the first time they touched the ball, but I think University of Idaho intimidated Boise State right out from the start, and Boise State has been on their heels ever since.
And, of course, as Boise State keeps it on the ground for may just be shy of the first down, the loss of Ryan Akibi has not helped number 18. No, that has not helped the team for that matter. And we certainly hope Ryan is going to be okay. Of course, he's out for the game, as Jeff Caves told us.
Well, there are 2 guys that broke records that no one ever thought would even be touched. Of course, Don Hutt's records, and Tony has broken Jim McMillan's records. They held for 20 years, and no one ever thought they'd be broken. And these are 2 very special athletes that did that.
And the Broncos keep it on the ground to pick up enough for the first down. Jesse Chan, and the big guy lowering his head and getting a nice game.
Well, Jesse sure has come along in the last few games. Nobody, everyone questioned the move from linebacker to fullback, but, he's turned into a pretty apt ball carrier.
How difficult is this for Boise State just to play this one through? I mean, it's got to take a lot of heart just to hang in there for 8 minutes here and now the 4th quarter.
Well, I think this is going to be one of the longest games that these kids will ever have to play in their life.
Etheridge gets back to the original line of scrimmage. Matt Jasek on the stop. Jasek just a freshman, so he'll be back for a number of years.
He's going to be a great player. Look at the long hair in the back. I think that's great. I had really long hair at the back. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I remember your hair hanging all the way back. You barely see your number,
But he's good. He's had a great game so far, and only a freshman. I think he's going to be a force to reckon with in the Big West coming up in a few years.
Well, folks in Mountain Home will recognize the name John Harper, who was in that spot that Jasek is, and Matt moved into the slot, although they split time. But early in the year, Harper was the number 1 guy there. Littlewood Roost to Mamro, and the Broncos sniffed, or rather the Vandals sniffed that way out by Boise State. What would you call that, a reverse option pitch, or what would you call that in the huddle?
Probably just an option reverse. How's that? That cuts a couple of words out, but Barry Mitchell was there. He had nothing going. He wasn't chasing anything down the other side. Idaho's a good disciplined team. Up until a week ago, they were playing for the Co-Big West Championship.
Broncos coming into this game at 2-9. Idaho at 5-5. Kildee back to throw. Fires it complete to Etheridge, and Reggie gets about 5 yards. Unfortunately, it was 3rd down and 9. And he needed to get almost to the midfield mark, and that will send the punt unit in. So Davis will walk out to the 30-yard line to punt this football. David Griffin deep at the 20. And Davis almost had that one blocked as Griffin comes up and takes it, and he is hit right as he makes the catch. So Jason Bruce with the stop. There's a flag. I think they're going to say that Griffin did not have enough room to catch the football. Well, we can break this down at both ends. First, where it started from.
Well, Ryan Phillips coming in.
Along with Tim Wilson.
Well, Ryan Phillips goes 6'4", 251, and McKeith Brooks for Boise State goes 5'9", 175.
And then at the other end, no, I think we had more than enough room for that.
Contact interference on the kicking team, 5-yard penalty, first down.
But that's what they will call it.
I think these guys were watching the game we did last night where that wasn't called.
Bishop Kelly taking on Snake River. Snake River coming away with the championship. All the titles decided yesterday. A1 going to Centennial with an upset victory over Highland. I'm sure all the Patriots are extremely happy. The couple I saw today at Bronco Stadium were wearing their Patriot colors with pride. Keep it on the ground. Thomas went down on one knee, slipped on the turf, and that's where they will mark the football. So it'll continue to be 10 yards, and it'll be a second down and 10.
Cross of a half yard, second and about 10 at the 35.
Five minutes and 22 seconds remaining here in the third quarter. Fiend, transferred from UCLA to come here and play. It is complete. Don Gamlin making the grab, and Gamlin's about 3 yards shy of a first down. Here are some of the scores from the day on our Chili scoreboard. USC up on UCLA. Michigan with the, I don't know if we can say it's the upset win, but we didn't think Michigan was going to win that game. 13-9 over Ohio State. BYU defeating Utah. And that is the Bronco basketball score against Washington State. And keep in mind, Boise State led that one at the half, but the Cougs at home come from behind to pick up the victory. Well, Jimmy Clark thought for a moment that he might have himself an interception as he batted that ball down on third, and the Vandals will punt the football. Tomorrow, as we watch this replay, be sure to join us on Channel 6 tomorrow night for Bronco Sports Week. We'll ask Pokey Allen those exact questions about what he thought, not only about how the team played, but a couple of fake punts, plays like that, as Bart said, throwing it in the end zone. And so to speak, we'll get it right from the man. That's Bronco Sports Week, the official coaches show of Boise State football. That's on Channel 6 tomorrow night at 11. While everybody jumped off sides, it appeared that one of the Idaho Vandals jumped first.
Before the snap, false start on the offense, 5-yard penalty, repeat fourth down.
5-yard penalty puts the ball on the 37-yard line. 4th and 8.
Well, someone flinched there.
Look at Chris Wing on the swing.
Saw that there was a little movement on the Idaho sideline. Took a shot to get his own shot in there. Wing knows only one speed, and that's full.
Mamerle waiting for the ball. Will fair catch it. Rather waves the hand and lets it roll out of bounds at the 18. We'll take a timeout and be back on the blue turf with the Vandals leading 50-76 right after this. The Idaho Vandals lead at 57-6, and there's still quite a bit of time remaining in the third quarter. 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Tony Hildy gets away from pressure and fires it up deep. He's got a man going up. Well, I believe that was John Tia, who was deep. The ball hit him right in the hands. Yeah, Tia knows it.
John's not real happy with himself. He's been waiting for his chance to get in the ball game the whole year.
Well, we thought there was a slowdown by the Broncos in the first half, but it's really been stymied in the second. Of course, part of the reason they just have not had the football. A couple of fumbles. And offensively, it has been kind of like that. The ball's just been slipping away from the guy catching it. And there's a good look at John Tia in the backfield, the single setback. On 2nd and 10. Tia with the ball.
Well, you know, John's a real punishing runner. You see it took 5 or 6 Vandals to bring him down there. Why not keep giving John the ball? It seems that every time he touches the ball, he gets positive yardage, and I think any hope of a comeback is out of the question here for Boise State.
And I guess the other question you ask is, this is Tony Hildy's last game. How long do you leave Tony in? Do you take him out and let the crowd give him a final acknowledgement and let some of the younger guys play? I guess the only guy that could play would be Brian Harsin. Or do you let him finish this one out? As Hildy throws it deep, he's got a man. He's incomplete. And they throw a flag, and Ryan Stearns gives his applause. Ryan, a young man from Napa who is in there because of the injury. Ryan Stearns is in there because of the injury to Ryan Akibi.
Well, Bryson Gardner's going to get called for the pass interference. They had good coverage, double coverage in on there with Arnold Gunn and Bryson Gardner, but
Pass interference on the defense. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Push down. 15-yard penalty.
now they're going to call Bryson for maybe climbing Ryan's back. The official didn't have a great view of it. Looked like a pretty nice play by Bryson to me. But maybe a hand down on Stearns' shoulder pad.
So it'll give the Broncos a first down as Horace goes in motion. Hildy off to Tia. John high-stepping his way for a couple of 3 yards. Now more pushing and shoving out there. Of course, this is difficult for the coaches, too, because they're telling, both sides, don't get involved in this. That is one thing, Pokey Allen, Tom Mason, none of the coaches, they are not interested in that one bit. So the officials are trying to get something straightened out. Basically, the official wanted to take a timeout.
Well, they're going to have a little conference. Looks like they're pointing at the 25-second clock.
You may have noticed in the broadcast, for just a flash, the screen went off. Let me tell you, a lot of the radio broadcasts have gone down. Of course, our staff has kept this up, but because of the power surge, they're having some trouble with the clocks, and they're trying to get that straightened out right now. Bart, they're looking up at you.
Don't ask me. That took some of the lights out here at Bronco Stadium. The power surge probably overloaded a few of the filaments.
Well, the lights actually, I think, what are they reheating to come back on? Luckily, it's not the middle of the night. This could be trouble if it was a 7 o'clock start. Hildy will fire it deep. He's throwing it to Andre Horace. And wasn't very close to Andre Horace. In fact, Bryson Gardner looked like the intended receiver, as Horace was running more along the sidelines in the middle of the football field.
Well, Tony Hildy, after he threw that ball, he kind of squatted, put his head between his legs, and he knew he didn't throw a good ball there at all.
So it'll bring up 3rd down and 8. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remain in this third quarter. The Idaho Vandals started out by getting a safety, and it wasn't that they tackled anybody in the end zone. It was just a holding call against the Broncos when Tony Hildy was back to pass deep in the end zone. And that, in a sense, was the beginning of the end. Hildy on a design draw does not get enough for the first down.
Touchdown by Ryan Phillips.
So the Broncos will punt the football as the clock continues to roll.
4th and 6 for the
Of course, it's a change for a lot of the fans moving up to 1A football, leaving the Big Sky. In the past, this game meant who gets to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, many times I mean, all 3 times that I played in this game, it has significance for the Big Sky Championship and for the 1AA playoff scheme.
Well, this is a scene we've seen a number of times on special teams. David Griffin carrying the ball, and Brian Harson, who's the number 2 quarterback, making the stop.
Brian Harson has played very well. He's the up back, the personal protector on the punt team, just to keep things interesting out there. But he's actually done a super job being one of the safeties in tackling.
Well, his prep coach, Steve Vogel, is a pretty good linebacker here. In fact, I think he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, so I think he makes all his guys, whether you're a quarterback, any position, probably you got to be tough to play for Coach Vogel.
On the return team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Well, that penalty pushes the ball all the way to the 10-yard line.
I think this is Idaho's worst field position of the day. They've been back on the 6-yard line because of a penalty, but their initial starting spot, I think this is pretty much the worst of the day for them.
Ryan Feen still in at quarterback. Keeps it on the ground, and number 1 has a lot of running room. It's going to be a foot race, and it looks like it's a race that Joe Thomas is going to win. Joe Thomas is gone 90 yards. Well, any questions about his breakaway speed were just answered right there.
Boy, he's a great back. He just was pulling away from some very fast Boise State defensive backs, creating room.
272 yards rushing for Joel Thomas, 3 touchdowns. I think you can safely assume he's going to be the Big West Player of the Week.
And he's creating space between him and the Boise State defenders. What a compact running style for a compact guy.
The extra point on the way. And another one goes on the board, 64-6. All Idaho, and after the 90-yard run, it's all Joel Thomas.
See, to me, that play is not running up the score. They're running the ball, trying to get first downs, trying to keep the clock moving. Joel Thomas and the offensive line just did a super job. And how can you help that? Just great play, great playmaking abilities by this Idaho offense.
And what about those numbers? Mike Sharp, our statistician, the sports king, 272 yards rushing. Unbelievable.
That's got to be a career day.
Yeah, I don't even think we have to look that one up. I think we can safely say that's a career best for Joel Thomas.
4 touchdowns. I believe that's a record, or ties a record for this game for any player. The Boise State-Idaho matchup.
Well, there is so much build-up to this particular game, and the week of the Broncos and the Vandals. How hard is it? Do the players get caught up in all that, Bart?
Well, I don't think this week the players from Boise State were as caught up as they used to be.
Well, as you watch this kickoff, we'll hear from Jeff Caves. Jeff, what do you got?
I was talking to some of the people on the BSU sideline, Dave and Bart, and asking about why maybe the Vandals have gone at as aggressively as they have in trying to score points. And one theory is that maybe they're trying to get Ryan Feen some of those yardage markers so that he finishes in the top 1 or 2 positions in the country in passing yardage. Other than that, it is a very somber sidelines with broken clipboards everywhere. The trainer, Gary Craner, is passing out antacids to the players. There's guys with just sullen eyes and very disappointed feelings. Pokey Allen hasn't lost his sense of humor, though. He's talking to the guy that's holding his cord over there, Scott Butterfield at Idaho Outdoor, and he says to Scott, he says, you know, if you want to go, you can take off. You don't have to hang around for this. So, you know, Poke, he's kept with a sense of humor, which I hope you guys can find some in this as well. Dave?
Well, you just have to remember what Pokey has been through, and you think, boy, this game's really important, isn't it? And then you remember what Pokey Allen is fighting for every day, and you think, you know what? It's just that, a game.
Yeah.
So Tony Hildy is brought down, and I'm sure there'll be some words after that. Tony thought he was tied up by Ryan Phillips a little too much. And Ryan is flagged for the celebration afterwards.
I don't think Ryan really cares right now.
Well, he is a senior that more than likely will be in the NFL someday soon. And
well,
he's a guy
Tony with absolutely no chance on this play. He looks and he looks, and then he just got to tuck the ball away and hope he doesn't get crushed by the weight of the guys on him.
We will tell you that Brian Brennan is warming up, so we expect to see Brennan in the lineup when the Idaho Vandals come back with the football. So that kind of nullifies the numbers on Feen, with Brian Brennan getting ready to come back in.
Dead ball foul, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense, second down.
And although the game is out of reach, Bart, you think about that particular penalty, he basically had a sack. And now you tack on some yards and you have a second down and short. Make it second down and 2. Hildy fires it up, but incomplete.
Hildy's pass intended for Jesse Chan.
Jesse Chan, the intended receiver, couldn't make the grab.
Broncos at their own 45-yard line.
You know, I think a couple of weeks ago when we talk about this game, Idaho would be heavily favored, and they were coming into the game by only 10, but I think everyone in Boise and everyone that is a Boise State fan hoped that, you know, Pokey Allen would have something to do with the resurgence in the program. But, you know, it's just like it's been the same thing that's happened all year. These kids are very young, and they're not a very good team yet.
Tony Hildy didn't like what he was seeing defensively and offensively. Calls a timeout, 64-6, with a minute 29, and it has been one of those games that Tony wants to call a couple of timeouts as Dave Stromswell, the offensive coordinator, chats with him.
Once again on Toys for Tots Day, thanks to everybody.
Of course, that will be the position we will all be zeroed in, that quarterback slot. Who will be the Bronco quarterback next season? There are a number of youngsters that are looking at that slot. Eric Davis, who was injured, he was the backup throughout the season. Brian Harson, who is now the backup. And then there are a number of young guys who are here. But basically the staff has said if we can find a top-notch junior college player, not a guy that's a backup, but a guy that can step in and do big things, that's what will happen. And how easy or how hard is that going to be to find that guy, Bart?
Well, I think that this is going to be an attractive spot for a junior college quarterback. It's a young team that's got a little experience under the belt. They're going to be noticeably improved next year. And the quarterback spot, as the coaching staff has said publicly, is completely and utterly wide open. There's absolutely no one vying or in the #1 spot after Tony graduates.
So on 3rd down and 2, the Broncos are trying to get the football up to the 47-yard line for a first down. Hildy out to Brecky. And Brecky, the sophomore, who Bart pointed out earlier in this game, has battled a hamstring injury, almost in the sense epitomizing the entire season. Just injuries here and there throughout the year, and everybody was not healthy at the same time. And Pokey said at the start of the year, he said, we are a very young team. We're not a very good football team, and we just don't have enough players. But as the staff has also pointed out, in a couple of years, that will all change. So Brecky gets the first down and pushes it into Idaho territory as the final moments of this third quarter come to a conclusion. Tia with the ball, and Big John. You know, if you look at him, and if you see him up close, you look at the helmet he's wearing, you look at the shoulder pads, you know, he'd be a pretty good offensive tackle. I mean, look at that hat he's got on.
Well, John's a guy who, I mean, he's incredibly gifted for his size. You know, at 5'10" and 245 pounds, I mentioned he runs a 4.5 40, and he is a punishing runner, as Tommy James found out. I mean, he gets his shoulders north and south. He's positive yardage.
Tia, and there's the big guy rumbling his way all the way up to the 22, and he carried a good number of the Vandal defensive players on his back.
That's what John Tia can do. It's unfortunate that last year he tore his hamstring, and this year he broke his hand, and just never got a chance to get in the game. And I mean, he is a good ball carrier. Just watch him here, Jesse Chan with a nice lead block. But watch John. He's got a little shake to him. Lowers the shoulder. 1, 2, 3. 4.
At the end of the third quarter,
5 Idaho defenders to take them down.
The fourth quarter is on the way. 64-6. We've played 3. We're ready to wrap it up in Bronco Stadium right after this. 15 minutes of Idaho and Boise State for 1996. Just beginning. As Tia carries the football on first down and 10. The Broncos with the football on the 22. Bart, as we wrap up the final parts of this game, what does an athlete, I'm not talking about a senior player, but a sophomore, a junior, a lot of people think, okay, they're done till next summer, but that's not the case at all. In fact, they'll be in the weight room, what, in a week, a couple of weeks, or what happens?
Well, I think Joe Ken, Big House, the strength and conditioning coach at Boise State, will give these guys a little time off, probably the Thanksgiving holiday, and then Christmas holiday off. But when come back in January for school, everything starts anew. These guys come back, and Joe's got a year-round strength and conditioning program for these guys. They run, they lift, they cross-train. It's no longer just a 3 or 4 month deal. It is a year-round deal, as you know. You're in the gym all year round.
Oh, yeah.
You don't just get ready for hoop season
That's
anymore.
right. I'm constantly training, waiting for that NFL call, NBA call, if there are any scouts out there.
But fitness is a year-round deal.
So Theo will pick up about 5, and it'll bring up 3rd and 5.5. We'll call it 3rd and 6. On the option play. Hildy does not pitch that very often. Instead, he'll go into the end zone. The crowd will give him a big applause. The senior, probably his last touchdown, as the Bronco sends the cannon to one of its few explosions for the day. Tony Hildy, amazing numbers he has had here. And the old option, 18 goes in for 6.
Tony does a super job. His job is to force that option man. It was 34. He waited. The option man goes out to John Tia. He tucks it, cuts it back.
Del Castro to split the uprights. And it makes it 64 to 13. 13:34 to go. Tony Hildy, one to remember. Maybe not, but he won't forget this touchdown. About 3.5 minutes and capped off by the Tony Hildy option touchdown as he put it in the end zone. And here comes Tom Pace again. Boy, I'll tell you, Tom Pace has definitely been a fabulous special teams player. And speaking of, are all special teams players? Yes, kicks. Kicks hasn't had to come out too many times today.
But I did see her, I saw her come out from behind the goalpost one time because I think her owner was a little worried about her coming from the sideline and getting mixed up in any of the extracurricular.
You didn't see a vandal dog on the other side, did you?
They'll take over 1st and 10 inside their own 34-yard line.
But Ryan Feen is still in the lineup. We saw Brian Brennan warming up. We thought that there would be a change, but Brian Feen is still in there. His last game is a vandal. And something about the formation is not the way he wanted.
Well, Robert Scott, number 4, was going to come off the sideline.
Delay of game on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
I wonder if Robert Scott thought maybe he was playing quarterback.
And at the last second, the coaches tell him to get back on the field. And I don't think they were in the right formation, and Ryan Feen just said, forget about it, I'll take the 5 yards.
What is interesting about Robert Scott is he never watches film with the receivers, so he spends no time in that coaching category at the receiver. All the film he watches is with the quarterback and the quarterback coaches.
Well, if you're the second quarterback, you better know the offense.
Although we can tell you he's not played a snap at that position. I asked him about it next year. He says, I'd love to be the quarterback. He will be in the running, as will Brian Brennan, and as will Ed Dean, a big guy from Rimrock, who will be coming into Vandal camp in the spring. So the Idaho quarterback situation, as the Broncos situation, will be wide open next year. And I think what they wanted to do was let the starters come out, let the crowd acknowledge the starters. And now the second unit goes in, and as we speculated, Brian Brennan, who his redshirt freshman year, he was the starter and passed for over 1,700 yards. And last year he was in and out as the starter and battling shoulder surgery. He was not ready to go at the start of the season, but as we told you at the beginning of this game, the head man said he could play, and indeed Brian Brennan is there. If you're Robert Scott, I guess I asked you.
Ball start on the offense, 5-yard penalty, repeat, second down.
What are your thoughts as Robert Scott? I mean, you've been watching film with the quarterbacks all season long. You say, hey, Coach, I want to show you this depth chart.
Well, I don't think he's too worried about too much right now. He is talking with Ryan Feen on the sidelines, but they're just hanging out.
Chris Wing one-handed on the tackle of Tom Pace. With 12 minutes, 24 seconds remaining in this game, Idaho leading it 64-13.
No gain on the play.
The Vandals have put their second unit in.
3rd and 19 for the Vandals at their own 25-yard line.
Of course, a year ago, Brennan, along with Eric Heisau, they were the starters splitting time. Of course, Brennan remembers a couple of years ago when he started here, and the Broncos defeated the Vandals, breaking a winning streak that started back in 1982. So the Vandals will be forced to punt the football. And Bart, we talked about it during the timeout. I had mentioned to you, said, do you bring Brian Harsin in, let the youngster have some reps? Tony Hildy gets the touchdown, and your thoughts are, well, no reason for him to come out. Leave him in, let him play those last few minutes.
Yeah, I don't think they're really grooming Brian Harsin in particular for the starting job next year. I give Tony Hildy some more opportunity just to go in there and play the last few snaps of his college career. Why not? You just keep him in there. I don't think, I think he would...
Timeout, Boise State.
I think he'd have some choice words for anybody who tried to take him out of the game as well.
Once again, BSU students,
We'll be back right after this.
for a free hot dog. You always use that. And exciting Bronco basketball. Enjoy a free hot dog, compliments of fine host and the BSU Athletics Department for the men's basketball home opener
Howard.
against Pepper.
On the sidelines, Jeff, I see it's getting colder because I notice you have two coats on now.
Actually, I just have the lining up a little higher, Dave, but I can't get anything past you. You'll notice that the offense for the Vandals when they come back on the field is going to be the number 2s. I was listening to what their message was to each other. And here's the Vandals' goal. According to some of them, at least, in 26 meetings, no Idaho Vandal team has ever scored 70 points or more against a BSU team. So they think that is their mission. Now, how they get there, throwing it or running it, I don't know. But now you know what they're playing for from the field. Dave?
Well, that's what you hear from the Vandals sidelines. I'd be interested to hear what the Broncos think about that. Obviously, they cannot be too appreciative of a team trying to score 70. Now, a lot of times the staff is thinking, and the players are thinking, but the head coach goes, whoa, 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 wait a minute. 64 is more than enough.
I sure hope so. I think Boise State's just trying to make sure that none of their young guys, the futures of the program, get hurt the rest of this game. Play hard and don't chance anything.
John Tia on the ground carrying. Tia is beginning to rack up some yards. As we told you, and you probably noticed, Ryan Akibi got hurt early in this game. He is out for the contest. We will keep you posted on that injury throughout the week on Channel 6. Ryan hoping to possibly play at that next level. Certainly will get an opportunity, and depending on that injury as well. Reggie Etheridge was banged up a little bit, and ever since he was hurt, he did not return. Of course, Reggie's a junior, and the Broncos will be expecting big things from him next season. Just as we say that about Reggie, guess who carries the football? I thought we'd seen the last of Reggie for the day, and Etheridge gets the carry. Maybe he snuck in and he wasn't supposed to.
And look who makes the tackle, another guy you were talking about there, Ryan Phillips.
2-yard gain. Ball at the 37-yard line of Boise State, 3rd and 2.
Bronco football team trying to get it up to the 39 for a first on 3rd and 2. Tony Hildy, who just scored a touchdown on the option, works out of the shotgun, fires it to Horace. Andre will get it out of bounds just before the midfield mark. And Horace is a guy, another player, and Bart, I know we've talked about that throughout the telecast we've done this season, a guy you wish just had one more season.
Well, last year in the opening game against Utah State, first time he touches the ball, he runs the kickoff back for a touchdown. And then the rest of the year, he kind of faded into the background. He had some injury problems, and then the beginning of this year, with some bruised ribs, he didn't play at all in the first few weeks, and boy, he sure has become one of the major go-to guys for Tony Hildy this whole year. Spectacular player.
Horace has been fairly quiet in this contest. Mamero going way up and can't bring the football down. This has been a bizarre season, to say the least. All the things, all the elements that have happened, from Tony Hildy electing to sit out spring ball, saying he didn't know if he was going to come back for this year. Pokey Allen's cancer returning, players being suspended, players being kicked off, injuries. Bart, I think we can safely say it's been the strangest season in the history of Boise State football, and all that in the excitement of going to 1A football and to the Big West Conference.
The strangest season, no doubt. At a time when Boise State sure didn't want to.
Look at Nico Tatum carry the football, and the Broncos kind of get some of the strong players, or I should say strong players, strong fans that are hanging in there, something to cheer about.
Well, Nico Tatum's a guy that they want to carry the future for this Boise State team. He's a true freshman, a guy who probably would have been redshirted in the past, but no luxuries for this Boise State team. So many players, when you think about it, look down the roster, how many guys really should have been redshirted who started this whole year.
So Nico carries it down to the 40, gets the, or got it down to the 20, gets the carry again, and pushes it to the 12-yard line as he picks up 8 yards.
Well, it's nice to see Nico getting some positive yardage. He's had a little bit of a rough time this year, but he's showing that he has the toughness. He broke a couple of tackles, and he was one of the highly recruited backs out of Northern California, and he makes a nice cut here. Cuts it back to the outside and breaks the tackle right here. Showing some toughness and getting his shoulders downfield.
2nd and 2, and Hildy trying to punch his way in, fighting for the touchdown, gets to the 1. Right for a minute the way he handled the step, I thought they were going to run the fumble-rooski.
I'm not sure about that. I thought it might have been a quick trap inside to Jesse Chan, and the snap came up in his stomach, it looked like. Let's see what happens here.
Looked like he just set it on the ground.
Oh, it looked like it might have been a trick play. But look at him fighting. The guy never gives up.
So the Broncos have the football on the 1-yard line.
Boise State.
Tony Hildy,
Charge timeout.
71 yards rushing. So Tony is nearing the 100-yard mark. But that is not the stat he wanted to have, because if you look at his passing numbers, 96 yards passing. Well, to think what Pokey Allen has been through, fighting his way to get back this season. Told me a couple of days ago, I feel good. He was very tired this week. I think coming back last week took a lot out of him, and changing the hours, and a head coach, any coach, believe me, puts in a lot of hours. Remember to get all your news on the weekends. That will be today. That will be tomorrow. Channel 6 News. Joe Rickett, Dave Post, and Joe Hughes right here on Channel 6. The crew probably warming up right now. See, we're just like football coaches warming up. Join us tonight right here on Channel 6 for the weekend report.
I think we tend to go right into the fray without any stretching or whooping up our holidays.
Tony Hildy again carries and goes in for a touchdown. So we thought the last one would be Tony's final touchdown, but he goes in again.
Well, with just over 8 minutes remaining, I don't think Tony Hildy's going to come out of this game.
it looks like the Broncos are going to go for 2 here, which is intriguing to me. I guess the question is why.
That's a good question, Dave.
Maybe that is Boise State sending a message back the other way. It's difficult to do down 64-19, but interesting the chess playing that is going on right now. Hildy back to pass on the roll. Tony Hildy probably wishes they would have kicked the extra point. Bryson Gardner with the vicious hit. There is a flag on the play. I have a feeling that it's going to be unsportsmanlike conduct. Something after the play. No, it'll be Vandals declining the penalty, so it may be against the Broncos.
PAT is no good. Dead ball fell. Unsportsmanlike conduct on the defense.
So that will be assessed on the kickoff. Now I'm going to throw one out at you, Bart. Well, the football is going to be marked. They'll tack on 15 yards. Again, you wouldn't think they would go for 2. Would you think they would onside kick this? I mean, no way would you say that in a normal game. But who would have thought Idaho was going to fake punt it? Who would have thought they were going, Broncos would go for 2? We've seen a lot of unsportsmanlike penalties in this contest. And most of them are celebration after the play is over. Of course, again, like you said, some of the seniors are saying, we don't really care right now.
It's their last game of their careers. What are you going to do, bench me?
It's kind of like Jim Hess said to us a week ago, if I don't run the play you want, Bart just pointed out, look how the football is being positioned on the tee. That is an onside kick position. Well, I thought it was crazy, but
you know what Boom Boom's going to do here? He's going to try and get two hops and then a huge hop up in the air into one of the Boise State guys' arms.
Got one hop is all it was good for.
You really got to put a lot of overspin on that kick.
Well, Bart, what's your thoughts on the onside kick?
No, I don't think he really had any
You
choice.
know what they're thinking about it.
When you're down 64-19, I mean, you wouldn't be competitive or trying to be competitive unless you tried to onside kick it.
Jeremy Hayner putting the hat back. Jeremy's not coming out of this game. Of course, there are those that will say, well, and maybe the Broncos are trying to send back a message the other way, down that many points. But regardless, it is going to be Idaho football at the 30. We've seen just about everything today. As Brian Brannon, here's the quarterback, handing it off to Tom Pace. And now you just hope you don't see any fights there. There's a lot of pushing and shoving, and I would guess the officials would step in and say, look, one thing and the hanky's going, or one thing you're off on the sidelines.
Well, Tom Pace, just a freshman. I think as a kick and punt return over the next few years, he's going to be a guy to watch for the University of Idaho.
Brennan on 2nd and 6 fumbles the football, but he manages to corral it back in. And
Fumble on the staff, recovered by Ryan Brennan. Flag on the field. Indication personal foul against Boise State.
Chris Wing, after that play, in frustration, just kind of hit his fist down when the official threw the flag. And it's back to what I told you with the fighting and the pushing afterwards. The officials have just said, look, one thing and we're throwing the flag.
Yeah, they've got to be able to keep control of a game like this. Two teams that just don't like each other.
I don't know if we can see Pokey Allen on the sideline.
Football, personal foul on the defense, 15 yards, automatic first down.
You can see he's not a happy man talking to the official. When the headset comes off, Ernest Duncan Allen is upset.
Boise State. First and 10, Idaho.
Is that guy a competitive figure or what? Tom Pace with the ball. Another flag goes down on the field. Well, now it's getting to be one of those games you wish you could just go over to the prop keeper and speed this one up.
Tie his hands behind his back and just let the thing go.
Illegal motion, the indication against Idaho.
Well, I think it'll be interesting next season. We touched on it a little bit. Who will play quarterback at Boise State? Chris Tormey talking to his guys. Who will play quarterback at Idaho? Of course, the Vandals have developed quite a tradition with guys in the NFL. John Freese with the Seahawks. Doug Nussmeier with the New Orleans Saints. Certainly, Ryan Feen will get a shot. That has to be a wonderful recruiting tool.
Illegal motion on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Look at these guys and look where they are now.
Well, that's without a doubt. John Freese started that tradition. A guy who came out of Coeur d'Alene High School, goes to the University of Idaho, sets all sorts of records. There he is. He's still in the NFL.
48-yard line, 1st and 15.
Yeah, I guess it goes even further. I guess you look at Scott Linehan and Ken Hobart.
Ken Hobart was a fine quarterback in the CFL, really a guy who threw for a ton of yards. And Marcel Yates and Chad Berry getting into it after the play.
Robert Scott, it was funny, I asked him about changing his number, and he said, well, I wanted 9. I said, well, Robert, that's retired. That's Ken Hobart's number. I said, I found that out. Of course, certainly Tony Hildy will help the Broncos in recruiting when you show the numbers that he has put up. A guy that has played all 4 years.
Well, this is certainly a program talking about Boise State that kids will want to come to because there's so many young guys that got to play this year. And a lot of guys like the challenge of turning a program around.
Jeremy Hayner on the stop. Talk about senior guys not wanting to come out. I've seen Chris Wing in there. I've seen Jeremy Hayner. Of course, we have a feeling that Chris Wing will at least get an opportunity to play somewhere, at least get a tryout. But Jeremy Hayner is very realistic. He knows this will be it.
Well, he's going to move into his family business. His dad has a very successful local business, and Jeremy's been working into it.
Flag on the field.
Well, another flag added to the pile. There's been a lot of yellow hankies today.
Dead ball, delayed game, offense, 5-yard penalty, repeat, 3rd down.
5 minutes and 14 seconds remain in this football game that kicked off at 1:30, now going on 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And I'm sure it seemed much longer to the Broncos. And I think even at this stage, the Vandals are just wishing that this one will get over and they can hop the plane back to Pullman. Take the ride home to Moscow. It'll be interesting tomorrow to, I guess we can kind of put a semi-plug in for the Statesman, but Mark Prater, who writes in the sports column, we actually put him on the crew today. Can you imagine? We finally got Mike to do some work, but he is carrying around one of the crowd microphones that we use on the field, the parabolic microphone, and his story is going to deal with the sounds of the Bronco Vandal football game. It'll be interesting to see what that piece turns out like. At least I think he lasted the game. Our director Howard didn't fire him, I hope.
He had to hold that heavy parabolic up the whole game. You asked him, do you think you're going to last for 4 hours? He said, maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Is he down there? There he is. Mike, is that Mike? No, that's not Mike. You know what? Mike had that individual take over for him. Don't write Mike a check for this. Remember, it was an internship situation. Well, that's not Mike either. Did he go home? We're told he went home. Mike's watching at home on television. Mike, that doesn't count. We caught you. I wonder what his boss is going to say about that. He turns in the expense report.
On the defense, the penalty declined. First down.
Well, you still haven't been able to get him to do any work this whole season.
Trying to look to see if he's... I guess he did go home. So, Mike, since you're at home watching, you're in big trouble. But I'm sure he'll write a wonderful article, as he always does. 4 minutes and 15 seconds before this one goes in the books. Tony Hildy still at the helm. Tony Hildy trying to outrun Ryan Phillips, and he will not do that. And Ryan Phillips trying to add to his sack total. And I think we had a face mask. And I think that Ryan Phillips has been flagged now a couple of times for a personal foul.
I don't think that was on Ryan. Tony was down, and Brian Smith and Ryan Phillips were all over him right there.
I thought somebody grabbed his face mask.
Watch Ryan Smith and Phillips take him down, and watch here at the very end. Oops, I'm just going to give you a little forearm there. Jason Schultz flagged for the personal foul.
Well, they're discussing it. And I think regardless, it'll add up to 15. Ryan Phillips with 7 sacks on the season, 58 tackles. He says his player, his idol, is Derek Thomas, who is a wonderful linebacker, defensive end.
Motion on the offense, personal foul on the defense. Those penalties offset, 15 first down.
Okay. Well, I guess they'll just re-rack it and play it again. Anyway, I thought the personal foul overruled, but not the case, so the play basically just won't count. I asked Pokey Allen, I said, Pokey, are you going to go home for Thanksgiving? Are you going to go to Missoula and see your mother and daughter? And Pokey said, nope, I'm hitting the recruiting trail. So he's ready to get ready for new things in the Big West in 1A football, and he's thrilled to get the stadium completed as well. As next time these two meet up in a couple of years, Bart, there will be, what, about 30,000 here?
Well, this thing's going to be pretty spectacular when it's built. It'll be 30,000 plus. Some delays in the construction of it, but it's coming along nicely now that they've cleared the earth and got most of the columns up. It's just a matter of laying the seating, and it's going to come up a lot quicker than I think people think.
Second down and 10 as Hildy gives it off to Nico Taylor. Nico's a guy that he gets out in the open and he just seems to explode.
Yeah, he's got really good wheels.
And you can see the arms almost like a mother waiting for the kids to come home as they'll get ready to expand Bronco Stadium. The seats will roll across there, and right below that will be the Bronco Hall of Fame.
And on the other side of the field, they're going to put in some offices and a new weight room. And
you'll have an office there, right, Bart?
Yeah, right beside yours.
Tony Hildy under pressure will run. Hildy is the almost who came up with it? I understand. I know, but it looks like one of the Idaho Vandals. So Idaho gets the football after the fumble by Tony Hildy.
Mike DeGraw, number 93. He's a senior from Centralia, Washington, getting a little PT.
Well, this will be really interesting because the scenario that Jeff Caves painted that he had heard was Idaho players wanted to be the first to score 70. We will find out in a hurry with 2 minutes and 42 seconds remaining in the game. We would expect that it would just stay on the ground at Tom Pace, and that is the case. What are your thoughts on the end of the game and the handshake and the players?
Well, I think it's settled down in the third quarter. They run the the fake punt when they're already up by about 40 points, and I think that got some bad feelings going. And then they settled down and started running the ball and keeping the clock moving and not just throwing the ball to score points. And I think it settled down. I think Idaho sent the message they wanted to, and I think Boise State's received it loud and clear. I think it's going to come back and bite Idaho in the next few years, but you know, those feelings like this keep breeding and breeding after you let you win.
Clock continues to roll. Cliff Robinson comes up and makes the stop. Cliff, as we told you, a senior, ready to wrap up his career at Boise State. I guess my one memory of Cliff is a blocked field goal. And Cliff gobbled it up, ran it in for a touchdown, and he did not even realize he thought it was for 2 points. And I remember the team telling Cliff, that's a touchdown, and he was just thrilled to death. Jerome Thomas, who used to be the number 2 guy, we saw a lot of Jerome, has since fallen to the number 3 slot, and he carries the football in relation to Joel Thomas for about 3 or 4 yards. So it is 4th down and 4 with 54 seconds to go. Of course, the Vandals are in a situation here. They can't kick a field goal because that would be, I guess I can't say they can't kick a field goal, but the thought on that is if you kick a field goal, yes, you are running it up. Of course, at the same time, I guess if they get it on 4th and 4, they'll say, why'd you go for that 4th and 4? That's a foregone conclusion, running it up. Of course, like you said, runs by Joel Thomas. The coaches are going to yell at him and say, hey, Joe, come off to the sidelines. But regardless, it will go down in the books as a Vandal victory. 29 seconds remaining, 64-19. As these two clubs start looking ahead to what to expect next season.
Brian Harson has come in for the final 30 seconds of the game. I'm sure he says, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Appreciate it, Tony.
So Brian Harson, the redshirt freshman from Capitol High School, played a little bit in the Arizona State game, played a little bit in the Fresno State game.
There's
another late hit, and that's a flag for 15 yards. Well, you would think with just a few seconds remaining that there wouldn't be a late hit in the game, as John Harper, guy from Mount Home. John, we wanted to play you up big, but not like that.
Well, Davey Malyathong is a guy that they surely did want to redshirt this year. He's 5'10", 160 pounds. He plays running back. He's got a lot of ability, but they had to waste his red shirt.
On the defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Be interesting to see the stats on personal fouls, celebrating late hits. There has been a lot of those 15-yarders in this ball game. So Harson has the ball on the 34 of Idaho. And Boise State will run it. And that should be the last play of this ball game. I don't think anybody's going to call a timeout. They want this one to be over. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the meeting at the center of the field will be like. Well, I don't see the Bronco players walking over. They are leaving the field. There will be no greeting. The final score reading 64-19, and the rivalry will continue on. We'll be back after this.